Oh, you gotta cut that.
I'll bleep it. I'm not gonna cut it. I'll bleep it.
Okay. Sorry, that's next year's board.
You just dropped next year's board, but you're excited for some next year.
That board is super fun. It's not my style, but it's just so playful.
On today's episode of the Grab Matters podcast, we welcome on a very special guest, Gavin Stuckey. Gavin Stuckey is a professional wakeboarder from right here in Orlando, Florida, who is brother to Trent Stuckey, who we had on the podcast earlier. We're talking with Gavin about growing up at OWC, riding with his family, Team Stuckey, Momma and Papa Stuckey, and his brother. Some of his early influences, like the Cohen brothers, the Worrells. We actually have a few great guest questions from Julian and Yonel Cohen. We're talking edits. Gavin's had quite a few solid edits from over the years. Status, 48, Grounded. We're talking about the names behind those, a lot of the philosophy, I guess, and the composition of what goes into an edit for him, kind of his vision of what he's looking for when he's putting together an edit and all the behind-the-scenes work that he puts into it. We're also talking his switch from Ronix, riding for that brand, and then switching over to Liquid Force. You know, some of the brands at play, some of the discussions that were happening, and why that switch did end up happening. We're also talking contest riding, kind of his relationship with his brother Trent, who's obviously, you know, the best cable rider in the world right now, competitive-wise, how he approaches that relationship and how, you know, they both approach contests differently, and his strategy, I guess, when it goes into riding against him and all the other riders at contests throughout the year. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to all the Patreon subscribers. Your guys' support is really what keeps this podcast going. So thank you guys so much for continuing to support this podcast. It means a ton. If you guys are interested in supporting the podcast, joining the Patreon is the best way to do so, as well as supporting the brands that support this podcast. So without further ado, let's get into this episode of the Grab Matters podcast with Gavin Stuckey.
I approve waterboarding. They're talking about wakeboarding. The thing about wakeboarding, every trick is an invert.
Backside.
Air railing.
A new dimension.
All right, we're back. Another episode of the Grab Matters podcast. Today, we welcome on a very special guest and world wake skate champion, Gavin Stuckey. How's it going, Gavin?
Good. How we doing?
Dude, we're doing good. Let's talk about the World Wake Skate Championship.
Yeah, let's do it.
You won, right?
I did.
Okay. Is that going to go in the bio anytime soon, or what's the deal with that?
Well, that was actually that's a good question, because I already put in the bio 4-time world champ, but I've only run wakeboarding 3 times, so I already counted the wake skating.
Oh.
So I just added it to it. But I asked some people like Trent and Gunther, and they were like, yeah, you can add it up to 4. So I put 4.
So if you win Wake Skate World Champ again, you'll put it to 5?
Yeah.
So does this mean, like, you're Wake Skate World Champ? So you could beat, like, Andrew Pastura, Cole Crace, Bammer, even freaking Maxime Geary. Like, you could beat these guys. Leo, like, you could beat these guys, right? Mari. I mean, I could list off names. I mean, world champ, best in the world, right?
There's a lot of names out there, but they weren't there.
That's what I'm saying.
So I guess you could say I beat them because they weren't there, but
They didn't show
I guess
up.
we'll never know.
We'll chalk that one up to, I guess we'll never know.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. Wake Skate World Champ. Wake pants, yes or no?
There's a time and a place. I've rocked them before. Haven't rocked them recently, but some people rock them very well.
You literally answered every single part of that. You literally.
Heck yeah, I did.
That's the most political answer I've ever heard. Because I'm thinking of a very specific clip where you are opposite wake pants, just full gray, at the Alex Albach kit. You did the
wake tools.
Yeah. No, I mean yeah, but in the edit, where you land on the stair lander at
the recent ROTY.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wetsuit, wake pants. I think you can pull them off, and they're sick. I think if you run in wetsuit and just like a vest, no shirt, I wouldn't do that.
I agree.
But if you run in a kit, you can make it look good. If it's hot out, don't run them. If you're wearing no top, don't run them.
Yeah. I saw clips of Tobias in the new Duck movie, and he was in I think he was at Phuket Wake Park with the full kit and a wetsuit. I'm pretty sure. To me, that's just insanity.
No, that's crazy because it's like 90, 100 degrees
It's
there.
100 degrees, full humidity. I don't understand how I mean, maybe it helps. Maybe it keeps you cool inside because it's so hot outside. Who knows? We'll have to have Tobias on. Favorite grab?
Didn't see this one coming. Not gonna lie.
All right, that's a fucking hardo.
Left hand, right hand, heel side, edge of the board. So switch melon, reg melon, switch stale, reg stale. Those
So
are
4 grabs.
But technically it's 2, just depending on how you come in.
It's 4 different grabs.
Yeah, that's my favorite though. Either front or backhand, heel side, edge of the board.
Like backhand,
you
heel
can
side edge of the board.
poke either the front or leg back out, like just jam it out.
Switch method would fall under this situation.
I guess it's different because of the tweak.
Yeah.
But
It's the same. It's the spot
hand,
that you like.
The hand goes on the heel side edge of the board.
Okay.
But yeah, if you poke the one leg out, bring the other one in, you can get pretty tweaked.
That's the favorite. Okay.
Yeah.
Not messing around with the tips and tails. See.
Kind of far out. Seatbelt's good. Honorable mention.
Seatbelt, honorable mention.
Yeah, but this melon.
Yeah,
and
because that's
stale,
your back mode 5 you do seatbelt, right?
Yeah. But melon and stale never get old. Like you can just poke them.
I agree with that.
Crazy.
I agree with that for sure. What are the 3 types of rail hits?
Contest wise or just in general?
What are the 3 types of rail hits? And this might be a little educational for the viewers and the listeners here.
Okay, so you have the banger, Then you have the medium, and then there's a scratch. The banger is what you want to do 10 out of 10 times.
Banger's perfect.
Right?
She's a perfect rail hit.
Perfect rail hit. You lace it, lock it in. The mediocre, just straight bang in the middle of the scale. That's what, you can get away with it. You don't want to get away with it all the time because then you won't get away with it. But that's just like, it counts, but it's not ideal. And then a scratch is just a frowny face on the paper.
Yeah. Scratch doesn't count.
Nah, it's out.
Okay. So I heard a lot of people call the mediocre a contest make. Some people could say. Some people could say it's soggy. That's where I stand. Soggy rail hit. You're making it to the end. Am I getting this right? Where a contest hit or the mediocre, you're making it to the end of the rail, but if there was 4 more feet of the rail, maybe not. 10 more feet of the rail, maybe not.
Yeah, that's where I don't see it
Kinda
as a
falling
contest
off.
make. Because a contest make, it depends about what the other rider does, not what you're doing. So it's not, in those terms, I don't see it like that. But you can put it that way. You miss, like if there's a donkey and you miss the donkey, or you hit the donkey and like bounce off to the side,
Yeah.
that's where that would fall in. But I see contest make is different because it depends on what the other rider in the head-to-head or in the heat does. It's not about what you do versus what yourself does.
So when you bring contest into it, it's a different game.
In my opinion.
Okay.
I like to call myself a contest rider, so.
I think it would be a very apt description to call you a contest rider. But also, you have plenty of video parts, so maybe it's not apt description. Who knows? All-around rider, you could say. So I'm curious. You and your brother rode a lot on your wakeboards. And I just have a general question. Who do you think has spent the most amount of time on a wakeboard in the world? Ever?
In the world?
Ever, yeah.
Most laps? Well.
If you were to take a guess. Obviously, nobody knows for sure, but.
I'd say Lior or Daniel Grant has got to be in the top 5.
Yep.
Trent has taken more laps than anyone I know, but he's 20 years old. So I think he's got a lot of time. Maybe at the end of his career, he could be in the digits.
Yeah.
But I'd say like Lior probably has something crazy. Also, Ian McGregor. That guy.
Yeah.
That guy, Cable. I used to know that guy. Like, after school, I'd go there, ride Cable, and he'd show up, like, after work, pull up at 5:30, Cable closed at 6, and he'd get his laps in. So, like, I would say maybe not laps, but the most amount of check-ins goes to Ian, because he'll pull up 10 minutes left and get a session.
They don't ask how, they ask how many. That's what counts right there. That's how you get days on the Cable, for sure. Okay, those, yeah. I feel like DG is like and Lior, I feel like I didn't think about Lior, but that's a good one, because he's older, for sure, right?
Yeah, I'd say
in his 30s now, right?
Yeah, for sure 30s, but with his knee, he's not riding as much as he used to.
Yeah, he's on the mend. Let's talk early days. So, getting into wakeboarding, you got into it behind the boat, yeah?
Yeah. My parents both wakeboarded in the 90s. They competed, AM contest, did the thing, and then they kind of got out of it. Had me and my brother, and then I think one day Trent was like, "Hey, I want to learn how to wakeboard," and my dad maybe went out and bought a boat the next day. So we both learned on the boat, between his legs. Just my dad riding, us like staying between his legs, holding on like that. Eventually, maybe riding with the boom, on a friend's boat or something if they had a boom, and then eventually going out. My dad or mom in the water, the other one driving the boat. They sit there, help you water start, and the other one drives the boat, and you go super slow.
Yeah. So those were the first days. When does when does the cable come into the picture?
So cable doesn't come in until quite a bit later because we got into skateboarding. So actually, we got into gymnastics first, and gymnastics.
This explains a lot.
Gymnastics, maybe not as you think, but it was there to give us something to do after school because me and my brother had so much energy. So instead of running around the house just
causing mayhem, dude.
ruckus here and there, our parents just threw us in a gymnastics, like just a local gymnastics thing.
Yeah.
And after school program, which I hated. My brother loved it. I had a girl teacher at the time. I did not like girls at all. So I hated it. I was just like, I want to be like Trent. Trent has a boy teacher. I want a boy teacher, and didn't cooperate. But anyways, the gymnastics people, the owners had a son who opened up a skate park right next door, and it just recently closed, but it was there forever, just down the road. And we skateboarded, did lessons there, and got pretty into skateboarding. And I thought we were gonna go skate all day and whatnot. And then I think around a spring break when I was 5 and Trent was 7, something along those ages, we went to OWC and we just fell in love with it. I think never even looked back, just wanted to wakeboard, and that was it.
Okay, so it really was that just simple. You guys went one time and it was bang.
Well, yes, for us starting, yes. I'd say my dad used to go Wednesday nights or something, and he'd still ride cable, and we'd go there, and we were younger, and we'd watch. But then that one time when we rode cable on spring break or whatever it was, we just were hooked.
Interesting. So after that, you don't quit skateboarding, I guess, but do you guys get season passes right away, get your own boards?
Yeah, I think that summer is when we got season passes, which was not cheap. So shout out Momma Stuck, which I didn't even know at the time. I was 6, 7 years old. No, actually 5 or 6.
You don't know what's going on.
And yeah, I had no idea. I didn't say we didn't just cold turkey quit skating. Yeah. It was more of a transition, but I'd say it helped so much, especially nowadays when I'm trying to teach someone how to go into a wall, or the amount of walls that are in wakeboarding, and people don't understand how it's second nature. It's all skating. It's the same thing.
What do you mean going into walls? Transition?
Transition, banks, whatnot. It's the same as a half pipe or a mini ramp for me.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. And I learned skating at such a young age, and the mini ramp was my favorite thing, that it feels so comfortable to me.
Interesting. Okay. So you and Trent, 5 years old, 7 years old, you guys are ripping. Are you riding with your parents at this point? So when you go to the cable, do you guys all go together?
100%. Yeah.
Interesting. So that's a very unique dynamic to get into wakeboarding.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've seen it much else. But yeah, either my dad would meet us there after school if we went. My mom worked at the school that me and my brother went to, so she would just scoop us and we'd go there after school. On the weekend, we're taking one car. We're there from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Yeah. A lot of laps.
Oh, a whole lot of laps.
So I guess when does it turn into something that's being competition-wise, you guys are getting into it more seriously? Because 5 and 7 is super young. So is it pretty shortly after you guys get into it that your parents are kind of they're pretty good at this, do some contests? Yeah,
I wouldn't say seriously and contests are the same thing because of points chase at OWC. Points chase is, it was a standard. It was just every Tuesday or every Thursday or whatever it was, you just go hang out and you ride with your age group or your division, and then you see how you stack up. And it was something everyone did. The operators, and Julian, Cohen, anyone at that era at OWC would just ride in point chase no matter the level or their age. And it was just something you did. So that's when the first contest goes. National point chase qualifiers at the home gable. And you would, ride in your week, see how you stack up. At the end of the 6 weeks or however it was, you get ranked. So you 1st through 5th end up qualified to go to U.S. Nationals. 1st through 3rd get points for your team. So I think that first year we did these point chase, Trent ended up 5th and I ended up 6th or something. And we're no, we're not going to go. There's it was never about competing to go compete. It was you just do it for fun. And that was an opportunity that, proposed itself. So that being said, my parents were you need to go learn a 7 today so you can ride in U.S. Nationals. It was never like that. And I think competitions just started because of point chase.
It's interesting to hear because I feel like my view of point chase was way different than what it sounds like your guys' was growing up, where it was more of like a camaraderie thing where everybody's getting together and riding just at a certain time. I guess, I mean, it is a contest. You guys are competing against each other, but it doesn't sound like the vibes are so like, I need to go to nationals. I need to beat you. I need to do this. I don't know. It was just like good vibes. That's what it sounds
Exactly.
Like.
It was more about learning new stuff. And
Yeah.
I think because the cable operators rode in it themselves and were hyped on wakeboarding,
Yeah.
it fully changed the game. So, if it's on the Tuesday, the qualifier, then you have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to go out there, ride with your friends, and learn a new trick for that Tuesday event. And I think that's what was so cool about it. Because you would go there, and you don't know who's going to be at OWC, but there's going to be someone there, and they're going to be working on something to do, and then you end up falling on the same feature.
Yeah.
And then you go back to dock, learn that trick. And it just makes the whole circle of learning something so much easier and so much better.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point about the operators, I feel like, because to me, the operators are a huge part of a cable park where it's like, if the operator's into wakeboarding and they wakeboard a lot, like that is going to transcend throughout the entire park. Whereas if you just have an operator who like pushes buttons and doesn't really care, then it's like, not the greatest vibe, I guess.
100%. And that's why I don't know if you know the Whirls, Chad Whirl, Eric Whirl, Justin Whirl, they operated at the time. And I think, Chad was on Liquid Force. He was doing switch and rag back nines. Justin, complete opposite approach, rode for Joby, did a toe back one and a front three on every feature, switch nose press. And I think like having those two people as cable operators taught me everything I need to learn from the kicker side to the rail side. And I think that's what made it super cool. They're sponsored wakeboarders and they're just at the cable having fun because they like to wakeboard and they want to be at the cable, so they got a job there. And then that transcends amongst everyone that's in line at that dock, all the groms riding and whatnot.
Yeah, the local heroes is like a huge thing. So speaking of some inspirations growing up, you mentioned a bunch of names. What were some of the biggest inspirations you, and probably your brother too, but had growing up at OWC?
For sure, the Whirls. They were there all the time. And they were just like, they're like bigger brothers to me and trying to tell me what tricks to do. Even if they were operating, they'd be like, hey, go try this. Like, even though he's operating, doing his, so-called job, he's going to be like, hey, I want to see you do a double grab front five. And it wasn't the hardest trick, but they want to see like the coolest thing. Like I remember one day, Nell was on the dock and he's like, go do a switch toe back 180 off XL, no grab, handle pass, and don't make it look stupid, And I think Yonel and Julian, they were so into the sport and they had such an impact, not only on the sport, but the people just at OW, because everyone thought they were so cool and just wanted to be like them, that they were huge.
Yeah.
I'd say anyone that worked at OW in that era when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old.
Okay. Speaking of Yonel and Julian, we got several guest questions from them. So we're going to go ahead and tee these up.
What is up, boys? Hey, thank you so much, Hunter, for contacting me to kind of ask Gavin some questions. I think it's going to be a fun one. I brought Julian along with me as well, so he's going to ask a few questions as well. Gavin, I've been watching what you've been doing. You've been killing it. Not going to say we didn't have anything to do with that since we were at OWC when you were getting good. But excited to ask you a couple questions, bro. And yeah, let's do it. All right, first question. So it does seem like there's a bunch of sponsors, pulling away from wakeboarding in the last 10 years. Do you feel like, obviously you guys are really good now. Do you feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel in terms of sponsors coming back? I've seen Prada kind of make its way a little bit into at least the wake skating side of things. Do you feel like sponsors are trying to come back in fun wakeboarding, or do you feel like they are still slowly pulling away, even now the smaller companies and unfortunately the bigger ones are now gone as well? Do you feel like they're coming back? And then second question, bro, I've been wanting to ask this because I thought I was the only one. We all have that one trick where it's easy, but somehow I just always fucking fall on it, and they're kind of just hard to do. Even though I've done 1260s and I've done, double flips and all those things, there's just one trick I just had a really freaking hard time of doing. And for me, that was a switch tantrum.
Facts.
What is one trick, Gavin, that you have that feels like it should be freaking easy, but it's just hard to do?
Gavin, what's up, buddy?
We got a lot of questions, but I wrote them down.
Julian, in case you forgot my voice. Being Jewish, I got to ask a couple questions. It's kind of like in my blood. And, of course, it's about money. So you're on podium pretty much every tournament, and I just want to know, What does somebody in your position could make in a year just in podium winnings? First, second, third, whatever. And then I also want to compliment you on your pink hair, dude. It's so sick. My sister has the same.
I got another good question for you, Gavin. So it seems to be like you guys are very similar to us when we grew up. You guys grew up in Orlando, went to OWC just like me and Julian did. But it seems like the trend of what you guys are doing now is really similar to how me and Julian kind of grew up in wakeboarding. Trent, doing both boat and cable, which is cool. And you kind of just sticking to cable and wake skating. Very similar to Julian doing both boat and cable, and me just kind of sticking to cable, and also not doing very many air tricks. And Trent's really good at air tricks as well, so it's kind of a similar matchup here. What is your kind of plan? Are you planning to cross over to boat as well in the future, like what Trent's doing? Or are you kind of sticking to the cable side of things and working your way up that way, and maybe doing a little bit of wake skating on the side as well?
Okay, so another thing that I wanted to ask is about tournament runs.
Nope, two more.
And when you're going up against Trent. So obviously Trent has really good kicker hits, and he's really, really good. And you've beat him in this year. He's beat you. You guys both know what you both have in your bag of tricks. When you're coming up with your run and he's coming up with his run, if it's all about kicker hits and difficulty, extra spins, extra flips and stuff, based off what I've seen on social media, Trent has you on that. But it's not just about kicker hits and spins and all that. It's a whole variety of things. When you're planning your run, do you try to get a little bit more creative than technical? Which I know that the two can go together. But I guess my question is how do you plan your run knowing what your brother has in his bag? All right, Gavin. Julian again.
One more.
This is the last one.
Okay.
I think it's real cool that you and Trent, you guys are doing all these cool flippies and spinnies, and you guys are doing real well and making on the podiums. That's sick. But real question, do you guys like girls? I don't see any ladies in anything. Where are the models, man? You guys can do double flippies and stuff. Do you guys care about the boobs? Let me know. I'm a real question.
Okay, so we basically had like 100 questions there from the Cohen brothers. But I wrote them down. I was prepared here. So we're going to go one by one. We're going to start from the top because that's all over the place. There are questions from every which way you could imagine them coming from. So first one was, do you feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel in terms of sponsors? So obviously you have a few right now, but.
Yeah, this one's pretty hard. I'd say it's the hardest because it's hardest to answer right now because of what the industry had to go through with COVID and how it impacted them. But I'd say there is you see every year, every contest, the prize money seems to go up. Wake Duel has doubled their prize money the last 3 years. It started out when Trent won it. That first year we traveled, it was $1,500. This year was $6,000. So I'd say that is one example of how it's going up. Sponsors wise, Julian always taught me to try and look outside of wakeboarding, which I'm not very good at, but he was really good at. I know he had a sponsorship with Polaroid, and that brought in the cheddar because it was outside of wakeboarding. They see a professional athlete. They don't see how niche wakeboarding is. They just see professional athlete. And, he had a resume that was huge, world champion. He literally won it all. NBDs, you name it, he did it. And I think that's where they saw that and they threw cheddar at him. So I think if you look that way, there's an endless tunnel. It's hard to get that way. But that's my answer there.
Okay, so would you say there is a light at the end of the tunnel? It seems better now than it maybe was last year or the year before.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just hard in general to get sponsors because when they say budget, their budget has been shifted left and right nonstop. When Julian was going, they're going to put more budget into the athletes because that's, one of their main marketing things. If you see this guy is out here riding with this helmet, you want to go ride with that helmet. Now, they put all that money into social media, and there's less and less money for the athletes themselves.
Yeah,
because of how much of an impact social media makes.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely different now than it used to be. So that's interesting to hear from a rider's perspective, especially from their perspective too, because it was different back then. It's different now. So yeah, it's good to see the contest. I mean, at least working its way back up, which Wake Duel, that's good to see too. Second one, what is one trick that feels like it should be easy but is hard to do? Switch tantrum is what UNL said.
You know, switch tantrum is funny because it actually is tricky. To me, I always like go to fakie on it. Like just naturally, I go tantrum and it's just tantrum fakie. But the one trick I hate right now, and I'm getting a lot of freaking negative feedback from the groms at ODub right now, is air back mope. Dude, any 13-year-old IWWF kid can go do an air back mope 5 like with their eyes closed. And an air back mope 5 is impossible for me. I've done about 400 where I land 450 in faceplant. So I take some tips if anyone's watching. But air back mope like is so weird to me. And I think it's just so different from the kicker, and I do it on the kicker all the time that it throws me off. And I spent a lot of time on them recently, so I can do the switch ones I have good now. Regular, still work in progress, but that's such like a basic air trick, and I'm slacking there.
Interesting, the air back mob 5. That or air back mob,
I would
either
just
one.
say air back
mob
yeah,
is just
for me.
Tough one. I mean, that's interesting. To me, the switch tantrum, every time I hit the rope. So, I mean, I haven't tried that many of them, but every time I hit the rope. Are you planning on crossing over to the boat as well? We got a lot of questions on this one, but.
Yeah, it's interesting what he said about that with me wake skating, because that was something it was pretty fresh that I picked up on.
Yeah? Well, you're world champ now.
Okay.
The champ is here.
But it's been a lot of fun, and I've been riding with, like, TJ at OWC, and, like, I don't know, there's been a bunch of guys that come through, and I've been wake skating with them, and I've been wake skating a lot, and it's been fun, and I'm going to keep doing it, but it's just funny that you brought that up because it's so new to me.
Yeah.
But anyways, the answer is yes. I think in today's world, you have to kind of reach more than one aspect, whether that's, you know, wake skating or whatever it is. The more you can do, the better. So if you look at someone like Noah Flegel, that guy is insane. Like he's an idol. Like he's living the life. He's got, you know, countless pro models, countless contracts, signature, you name it. He lives in a nice house, freaking traveling the world. Like, and he's making all this from, you know, riding a board. So I think, and look how many sports he does, and it shows definitely of like the impact he's made and the success he's got from it. So like that, sick. Mossy, Gunther, riding both boat and cable, for sure. I think that's a path that you got to take because it's so like hard to find today.
Yeah. Well, if you just boil it down to it's just it's that many more products you can sell for a brand.
Sure.
So it's and Noah's like the pinnacle, I feel like, of that when it comes to success.
Yeah, he's a waterman for sure. I'd say he's at the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah.
But
it's a pretty far gap, I think.
100%. You know, he goes surfs in Jaws and he spends the winter in Hawaii,
Insane.
and then he's doing a toe 10 on a wakeboard the next day. But Gunther and Mossy, they ride both, and it makes them more valuable, and you can tell. Like, every single one of their brands they ride for, they're more valuable.
Yeah, 100%. Fourth one. How do you plan your run knowing what your brother has in his bag to compete with it?
So this is one I think about quite often, just because I know all of his tricks and what he's going to do. You know, I know he's got a Pete 7 off every kicker, no matter if the kicker is 2 feet tall or it's an XL. Then I know he can do a Pete 7 on it. He can crow 7 a lot of kickers. He can back up 7. His trick bag on the kickers is so deep, it's kind of a problem for everyone else. But he sticks, now that I've traveled with him so much and I know him so well, I know, like, when I hit the kicker, I know what trick he's going to do on that kicker. And he's going to practice it, obviously. But that's to my advantage. The good thing is I like to call myself a rail rider more than the other aspects, as kickers or air tricks. And there's more there's more rails in a lap than there are kickers.
True.
So
Hopefully.
yeah, hopefully. I'd hope easier on the cardiac system, but I'd say that's where I try and
Make
shine.
up some ground.
100%.
Yeah.
You know, I try and find a unique line, make it special, make it unique to me. Like, one thing I look back on is the Wake the Line rail in London. It's, you know, it's been at plastic playgrounds for 10 years. And then when I went there a few years ago, I was able to find a new line and do safety back through the hallway and step up. So that one, for sure, I like still think about that and try and implement that in more places because it gives me some confidence. So other than that, I try, Julian mentioned creative. I wouldn't say creative. I'd say more composed. So I try and think about the run as a whole more than just the difficulty and technicality of it. Because if you go in that sense, Trent's going to win all day long. He's the best rider in the world in difficulty and technicality. So if you can compose a better run and the judges take note of that and the difficulty gap isn't that big, there's a chance. But if you, other than that, you're screwed, man. Start mopping.
So dive into that a little bit more when it comes to composition. So what do you specifically mean when you're looking at a cable run? What do you mean specifically when you're looking at the rails of composition? You mean spinning both ways, switching regular, frontside, like all that stuff? Like what's going into
that's the forefront. I think composition is a rabbit hole that never ends because no matter who you are, you have a different take on it and you can go way deeper into it. So like air trick wise, because I just got back from a contest with air tricks, this is how I think about it. And I go pretty deep. I'd say more deep than other riders in the composition aspect because I try and use it to the best of my ability. Okay, so you go outside air trick, inside air trick, toe side air trick. Those are the three basics. Then there's you can go roll base, railie base, S base, front base. There's anything, any combo you can make. So I tried to do that. Then you have switch and reg, and then you have spinning both ways, which is should be pretty standard at this point if you're in pro division.
You mean throughout a whole run, or just in that air, if you're just talking that air trick section? I mean, obviously
both.
You have some
within the air trick
so
section
options,
and within the whole run.
Yeah.
I kind of go section. If you do section, you do the whole run.
Yeah.
So I did a switch S mode, which is S or front base, however.
Are we talking worlds? The world's run.
Yeah. So this last contest at Worlds, I did switch S mode into the first corner, then a switch backside 3-on-3. So I already spun different ways and clicked 2 of the boxes. Then went roll based with a regular KGB, checked my inside, spun the other way, and then after that did a chromo nose grab. So I did toe side air trick, different.
Yeah.
If you do a 90210 and a 3-on-3, it's pretty similar.
Yeah.
And I'd say 90210 is the easiest of the toe side air tricks.
So you're checking as many boxes as you possibly can with those 4 tricks.
But trying to remain the difficulty.
Yeah.
So I could go do a 3-on-5 front side, but I was no, I'm going to do switch backside 3-on-3 because I don't think the difficulty is that much difference there. And yet I still get the composition.
Yeah.
And it, I don't know, it takes a while to think about it that deep. But rail-wise is pretty easy. Hit a rail, toe side, heel side, spin, front side, back side. That stuff's easy. Where I think composition is kind of weird is on the kickers because not necessarily spinning both ways, but some people consider composition as hitting a left kicker and a right kicker.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily see it that way because you can go to a cable and there can be the right kicker is 100 times better than the left kicker. And you can do something on the left kicker and maybe it's impressive for that kicker, but I don't know how much you can take that into account, especially with how little the judges ride. So they might not know that kicker is like that. So if you hit a right kicker and you do 2 bangers and then hit a right kicker and then do a banger and a medium trick on the left, I still see the right kicker better. As long as you're spinning both ways or whatever, there's some sort of difference.
Variety, yeah. Between
exactly,
the two.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned something, and I was going to talk about it later, but there's no point in waiting. Should judges ride the contest setup?
1,000%. I think that's a must in today's world with how advanced the unit features have come, or homemade features. Any features
just the setup in general, how advanced it's
100% rope linked can play a role. If someone's doing a huge air trick like a 3-on-5, backside 3-on-5, and everyone else is doing a mob, and that corner is insane. I don't know how, everyone else in the pros are how's he doing that? Then that obviously skyrockets. But you don't know that until you ride.
Yeah.
Kickers are the same. Tension, every judge out there should know what tricks are hard or what line is hard on a rail once they ride it.
Yeah.
So I think 1,000% they should ride.
Yeah, I think a good few hours on a cable is a good enough time to determine all that.
Yeah, let them skip the line.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
I mean, they should.
Sure.
Yeah, skip the line, take 5 laps, come back, think about what happened, go back in, do it again.
Yeah, dude, I offered Aaron Gunn my board to ride setup at Gold Coast in Australia just because, I think Aaron Gunn is sick and, he was an inspiration growing up.
Yeah.
But so I was like, yo, you want to ride my board? And it turns out he had a board, but I just wanted him to see him ride. I didn't even care that he was a judge or whatever, but I think all judges should ride. End of discussion.
I like that. End of discussion. It's pretty black and white. I totally agree. Couldn't agree more, honestly. Another one. We got 2 more. What could you make in a year on a podium? You probably ask Trent. He probably knows pretty good idea.
Yeah. Well, what I can make and what my brother can make are probably 2 different spectrums.
I guess maybe what's the max? Like what's like if you win everything?
So I think
I
if
know
you
you did
win
math.
everything on the cable, you can maybe make 50,000.
Okay.
But that's everything. Like, not just the big events. That's if you go little event, big event, little event, big event. That's everything, I think. Or I'd say around 50.
Yeah.
But that's hard to do. To go, that would be 25 out of 25 podiums or something like that. And, and then you throw in kicker contests and some jams or something here and there. Maybe an overall, which doesn't exist anymore, but that would help it a lot. But I'd say close to 50. Like if you won everything, I think you can get close to 50.
Yeah, definitely. That's not a terrible number. Do you like girls? Last one.
I think you brought this up because back to what I said about my gymnastics.
That's what I was wondering.
And I was so young at the time that if there was like a girl operator or something at OW, I just wouldn't regard them or I'd disregard them. Just like completely go hang out with Julian instead. But man, no one's as good looking as Yanela and Julian, so it's hard.
I mean, basically models. Right?
Yeah.
So it's tough. That's
Yeah,
tough.
look at he's LA lifestyle, man.
All right, cleared the air on that one. So I think we move on. I think we talk about a few things. So obviously you guys are riding young as a family, good family dynamic. Your parents are helping push you guys' wakeboarding. They're riding with you guys. Was there ever a point where like when you guys are riding, you ever got burnt out on it or your brother got burnt out on it because you guys were going so much, or was it just purely you can't get enough of it?
I can't remember when I got burnt out. I'd say there was maybe there was a time or two that I was like, I don't know, the water was getting cold and I was like, yeah, I don't really want to try anything. Like, I can still go out there and do a back 7. This was like years ago. I was like, now I feel like the opportunities are endless. Like I could go learn something new if I wanted to. Just going to probably be a lot harder for me to go learn a trick that I went to on the kicker in a session than it would be years ago. I wouldn't say I got burnt out, especially just riding with people. You'll never get burnt out. New crowd, like go to a different cable, full new crowd, full new setup. You'll never get burnt out. There's tons of options.
I agree with that. So what keeps you from getting bored at a cable other than, I mean, I think the crew is the most important thing, but like you've ridden at the same cable for probably over 100,000, hundreds of thousands of laps. I don't know, tons of laps. What keeps you from getting bored? Like you're going to OWC tomorrow. How are you not getting bored on the setup?
Okay, so I think OWC is actually a pretty good cable.
I think it's a solid cable.
It's not special. Well, it's special to me because it's my home cable, but I'd say the fact that there's a solid XL on the left, a solid XL on the right, a medium kicker on the right, medium on the left, transfers on both sides of the cable. There's some other fun rails. It's not that low. The tension's decent. Like, it's just standard. It's a standard cable. If it was less than standard, I'd probably get pretty burnt out. But you can always do something with that kind of combination of having a standard. So I think that helps a lot. Also, you can just switch it up. Maybe ride a different board. Maybe take your boots off, ride a wake skate.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of things. Maybe you're like, this might suck, but maybe you want to go out and learn air back mode. You go do it, you suck it up and you go do it. And then at the end of the day, you got them down and you feel a lot better.
Well, you might have them dialed at the end of the day. You might not. You might never have them dialed. Switch tantrum. Okay, yeah, that's a fresh perspective, I think, and it's the one I have. I think it's easy to not have that perspective of like, oh, the setup hasn't changed in a long time. I've talked about it before, but like, just change it up. Try a switch nose press or try the switch tantrum or the back. Like, there's infinite things you can do at a wake park, even if there's not that many features. So
100%.
Yeah. On the same page. I think it's time we dive into the LF'n Wheel of Questions presented by Liquid Force.
The LF'n Wheel of Questions.
Okay, let's go.
So go ahead and grab that down. Liquid Force likes to make wakeboarding fun, so let's make this podcast a little bit more fun. and spin the LF'n wheel of questions. Got this fully customized for the kid here.
This is interesting because I got a text a couple days ago that asked if I was lactose intolerant.
Sure did.
And now I know why, because there's a milk chug on every single opportunity on this board.
There sure is a milk chug on every single opportunity, but I did. I think the last one to do one was Benny Greenwood, and he did it. You know, he was fully happy to do so. But this time, I'm giving you the option of chocolate or normal milk. So that's my gift to you, is that you could choose if you want to do chocolate or normal milk. Other than that, we got a bunch on here. We got hot take. We got top 5 cables you've been to. What is that one? Oh, how many times do you contest protest tips? So if you're going to protest a contest, we'll get some tips from Gavin there. He's pretty good at it. Steal a trick, make a movie, worst slam. So go ahead and we do have goat. I'm going to be a little bit, if it lands on goat, we're spinning again for sure, but go ahead and give it a spin.
Go clockwise or counterclockwise?
Everybody's done it counter. So
Oh, that'd be different here.
of course,
Left foot forward rider spinning backside.
that's a hard spin. What do we got?
Hot take.
What plus milk chug though, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone had milk chug on it.
So give me the breakdown on a hot take.
Well, hot take is go ahead and grab the milk out. You can choose. Like I said, that's my gift to you, is you can choose. Hot take is any hot take you have about wakeboarding, water sports. You going chocolate?
Oh yeah.
You are.
We're
Can I
going
have the vanilla one? Or not vanilla, the normal one.
Normal.
I mean, it's a hot take, dude. It's when you're sitting in a circle with your wakeboard asshole friends and you guys are talking shit. And you got a hot take. That's what it is.
Easy one. I think this one's first one come to mind. An ungrabbed back 7 should not be in a pro contest off the kicker.
Retweet. If I can do it first try, no problem, which is ungrabbed toe back 7, easy. I agree.
I mean, even heel back 7. I don't care.
True, yeah.
An ungrabbed back 7 is not up to par these days.
I mean, I feel like I've seen way less of those in the last year.
I thought so too, and then I watched the IWWF live stream, and I don't think I saw anything but an ungrabbed back 7.
Really?
And,
Interesting.
I mean, no hate if everyone's doing it. You're kind of equal, and you can go in the other parts, but it also makes it very easy to one-up them.
Okay, good point. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to throw stones at your hot take, but I think that's lukewarm. I think it's a lukewarm take. I'm looking for a hot take here. I want this one fresh out the oven.
That one?
400
was
degrees.
Straight off the tongue, dude.
Okay.
Tip of the tongue.
Yeah, that's fair.
Had to be out there.
So, what do you... I got a hot take. Do you think we should have 2 world championship events on the same weekend?
No, I don't think that, and I don't think there should be 70 world champions. But, there's got to be someone that's 40 plus best in the world. But I think now that there's 2 40-plus best in the world, it's pretty crazy, especially amongst 3 disciplines. Yeah. Well, I guess 2 disciplines. You have a features, a traditional, and then you have the IWWF, which is another traditional.
But they do boat too, though, so that's a whole nother discipline, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. There's a lot to break down there. But I think there is something on the other side. There is something to look forward to if you're 10 to 13 best in the world. You kind of have that moving on, and it kind of builds you up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm totally about that. I think that's sick to have the age groups best in the world. Like, I think that's totally fine. I think there's only one world champion. Like, if you're 12 years old and you win the 10 to 13 worlds, you're not a world champion. There's one world champion, and that's the dude who won the pro.
Yeah, for sure.
And the women's pro. But anyways.
There's different ways to think about it. One of it is, you can have your own contest and call it worlds. It's just a name. Like, I don't know who's given them
not trademarked or anything, apparently.
I don't know who's given them the credibility to call it worlds.
Yeah.
It's just always been that way. So I think there's harder contests out there than worlds.
Yeah, you can think of a lot of contests that are harder than
100%.
either worlds.
There's riders that don't go to WWA or WWF events because of the organization.
Yeah.
So they're automatically out of the running for a world champion, but they're still very good riders.
Yeah.
And there's riders that could win that stuff. Like, for instance, Pedro was not there.
He wasn't either. Yeah.
No, he wasn't. He didn't attend either. And he is one of the best riders in the world. And if he put it down, he could be up there. But who knows?
Would you go to both if they were on different weekends, or if it was feasible for you to do? Or are you partial to the WWA?
So I've only been The only IWWF contest I've done is Pan Am Games, which is
Was this
because
past year,
it was
yeah.
local.
Yeah.
But I've done 2 of them. And they were local. I don't know if I'd travel to them, but they were pretty close by. So I don't know. I think it would be fun to compete in IWWF Worlds because I've never done it. You give my just break away, try something new.
Yeah.
So I think it would be fun. But I don't know.
Interesting.
I guess we chugged this milk.
It's time for the milk chug now. So,
We put it in there.
isn't it? You want to?
No free branding.
Yeah, you're right. You want to put it in there?
Yeah,
Is it
let's do it.
clean?
It's
So,
all right.
for the listeners, Gavin has his Munich Mash champagne bottle, which looked big, but it's like 10 times bigger than I thought it'd be in person.
So it is 3 liters.
Did you drink that whole thing by yourself?
Well,
I mean, probably
I
90% of it sprayed out.
Yeah, I sprayed
True.
most of it, but I don't think I finished it.
Okay.
It's 3 liters, which is just shy of a gallon, I think.
So we can fill it with milk.
So we're gonna
Is it?
we're gonna milk transfer
See if
into
you,
here.
yeah, that's we're gonna milk transfer. Look at that pour.
Yeah, we're not missing any drops.
It's not expired. I bought it today. It shouldn't be expired. Be curdly. No, we're good. We got a few days on it still. Your arms are gonna get pretty tired when you're chugging this thing.
You know, I actually tried to hold it up with one arm for the photo, and I couldn't. So,
Gotta hit the gym button.
and then Trent did it, and I was just making fun of him the whole time.
Off season, dude. All right. That's more full than I thought it was gonna be.
That's a lot of milk, boys.
Sure
Tune into
is.
the live stream so you can see this, or on the YouTube.
Yeah, tune in to see. So it's Go ahead and get started. I'll
This might take 30 seconds.
I'll
You might
time
need
this.
to fast
I'll
forward.
time this. No, I'll fill the dead air with me talking shit about you drinking milk.
Cheers.
All right, cheers. Go for it. He's got 2 hands on it. This is it's going down quick. It's a good time. You can hear it. First ever chocolate milk chug on the pod here. It's a good time so far. I think he's going sub 30. Oh, he's definitely going sub 30. Wow. 20.84. Impressive.
There we go.
That's a solid time. You're gonna want to rinse that one out after we're done here. It's gonna be smelling nasty if you don't. Love it. So I think we give this another spin. I think you give it one more spin.
Yeah, LF Rider. There's no spin. We'll even it out. We'll go front side this time.
Front side. It's a front side spin. Another good spin. Ooh, this is a good one.
Top 5 cables. Cables itself, or like the park?
What do you mean the difference that you're asking? Like the entire park itself, or just a setup?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Top 5 cables you visited. So like everything
Okay.
encompassing.
Okay, cool. I think if you don't put this one on your list, you're missing out, or you're just biased. But 313, I think they have everything: 3 cables, 40 accommodation rooms, or something like that. Something crazy, insane amount of unit features. I think they're changing the game with how they do it there. So that one for sure. Home spot.
OWC coming in too?
Yeah. Well, are we going in order here?
Oh, I guess it doesn't have to be in order. Just top 5.
Okay, so yeah, 3-on-3 home spot, Orlando Water Sports Complex. I'm gonna go another U.S. cable. Shout out America, with the Terminus.
Terminite.
Yeah, Terminus in Georgia. I think it's a sick cable.
It is.
And then
A lot of fun. New feature too. Shout out.
That is true.
2 more. 2 more left.
I'm gonna go Wake Paradise, Milan. I think they have like 25 unit features now.
An insane amount, dude.
I don't know, something crazy. It's just cool. Like, if you go there on the weekend, there's a line of like 20 people just to wakeboard. Like at least 20 people, beginners, locals,
So it's popping.
whatnot. Yeah, it's sick. They have an XL, which is pretty rare to find in Europe. And then one more.
One more. Last one. What do you got?
That's a hard one. One more on the spot.
Yeah. I picked 5 for a reason. You can have honorable mentions if you want, I guess. But
I'll just say Trilago. been there once, and it was 2 or 3 years ago at this point. But the crew there, you know, like we went there just before LAO, filmed the video or like some media stuff, and then they like have those barrels that you sleep in, and the owner's super sick. And they do have some sick rails. Like they just got accustomed to.
Yeah.
But it's like there's a mountain like right next to it. And then, but actually I'll probably tie that one with TNS.
Okay.
Exo 73, I think it is, which is my friend Luik's home spot. That cable is also sick. In the mountains, super clear water, gnarly transfer box.
That's France, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd probably tie those. But
Okay.
there's a lot of good cables out there.
There is. Speaking of good cables, we got a LF'n wild card from the crew at Liquid Force, and they're wondering what are the 3 cables you want to visit the most. So ones you haven't been to. Might be a short list. I mean, there's a lot of cables out there you probably haven't been to.
Yeah, I'd say Pampa in Argentina. Haven't been there. You said 3, right?
Yeah, 3 cables.
You could say Sunset as well.
Yeah, Sunset looks like a lot of fun.
I haven't been there either. And then I don't know what else is there.
I don't know. You tell me, man.
I want to go to South Africa. Not for the cable, though. Just for South Africa. I don't know how gnarly the cable is.
Was that Bluestone or was it Blue Rock?
So, yeah, I think where
Right.
Raph did his thing. Actually, can it be any cable, like, ever in its lifetime?
Maybe Defunct, is that what you're getting at? Like, isn't
I was
around?
going to say that 2.0 that they filmed that section of the debut on with the, like, extra large quarter pipe.
Oh, yeah.
But it's okay. I'll say Lunar. I haven't been there.
Okay.
Looks windy, but it looks really fun.
It does look windy, but it does look like a lot of fun. I feel like every clip I see from there makes me want to ride there. So that's doing a good service there for them. Those are another 3 great cables. So you talked about unit features. A lot of these parks have unit features. What do you think about people when they dog unit features?
I think they're the standard. I don't know how you can go wrong with them. Like, it can definitely be cheaper to build your own, but I think unit has been leading the way, and they were there like since the beginning. So I don't think you can go wrong with them.
Yeah, I agree with that. So let's talk about your. We can go ahead and put this LF and Wheel of questions back. Thanks to Liquid Force for that. So you guys did make your own unit feature, 2-in-1. The Stuckey. What do you call it? The Stuckey Custom.
Yeah, it's actually 2 different rails.
Yeah.
One rail.
Is it sold as? Can it be sold as 2 different rails, or is it sold as
It
one?
is only sold as 2 different rails.
Okay.
So there's Trent's rail, which is my brother, and there's my rail, and they're relatively similar price. And then I think if you buy them together, you'll get like a little discount.
Sure.
You know,
I'd assume.
very minimal probably, but yeah, that's new. The first one just went to Australia a few weeks ago, and I just got to hit it for the first time, which is pretty nerve-wracking because, you know, you can make a feature, but you don't know if it's going to be good until you actually hit it, and other people hit it before me. So I was like showing up like, is it good, guys? Like, I didn't know.
Super nervous. It's like,
Yeah,
suck.
but so basically, if you haven't seen it, it's an incline or a
I'll
down
put a
rail.
photo in and maybe some videos.
Incline
too.
or a down rail, like it can be both ways. Creeper on each side. One's much bigger than the other. Very steep wall, safety, and a lander or an up ramp and a down safety.
Yeah. It has a lot of options for sure.
Yeah.
Especially if you get both, like a ton of options.
For sure. I'd say the number one thing was to try and make something price point that all levels can have fun with. And it can just go anywhere. Like anywhere in the park, you can hack it. You can put it in a corner. You can put it by itself. You can put it with other features. Connects perfectly with Trent Stuckey's rail. But the main goal is to just like somewhat price point everyone can have fun with, and it can go in every park layout.
Yeah. I think that was accomplished. Had a lot of fun on it. It was good.
And a
good
super
rail.
steep wall, because who doesn't like steep walls?
Me. I don't.
Well,
I like them. We just don't have a good relationship.
So the idea is if you can land, like let's say if you do a back 5 or a back mob into that wall, you can do it into indie wall. If you can do it in,
Okay.
do it there, do it anywhere.
Sweet. You just have to do it there first. Makes sense. So how long was the design process for you guys? I mean, did you and Trent obviously work together on it because it's like made to connect and then separate, but like how long does it take you guys to draw it up, or did you pretty much have an idea of what you guys both wanted years ago when you're sitting around?
Well, yeah, I think there was plenty of ideas I drew when I was like kid or just amongst the years, but to actually make one, I didn't think it would end up like this. I totally thought I'd have something else, but I didn't want to go too crazy, and then unfortunately, it would never make
Nobody
it
would
to a
buy it,
cable.
yeah.
Exactly. So kind of toned it down, went with something I think I could enjoy and had a purpose and amongst the unit lineup and at any cable. And then I'll save the crazy rails for later. But so I came up with this. Trent had some idea of a pretty like a transfer sort of, but pretty like poppy, and gave him a line. I think one of Trent's like, most common things that you see him do is either front roll or mexi like transfer in a contest for sure. So that's there's a easy line there that was pretty standard, and then there's like a box rail and whatnot, and then basically a unit kind of just made them so they fit together.
Yeah,
I'd say it took about a month to like dial it in.
Okay, not too bad then. I mean,
No, not at all.
moving along quick.
I think every rider has a idea or 10 in their head. So
True. Yeah, there's infinite options when it comes to rails, which is actually what I think is really cool about it. All right, I think it's time we dive into another guest question from none other than Momma Stuckey, Shannon Stuckey. She was nice enough to send a voice memo of, I'm not going to say a recap of like your younger days, but there's a lot of good things that she hits on that I think I'd be curious to hear your, I don't know, maybe stories or anything that she's bringing up. So go ahead and cue that up here.
Gavin, my son who's always been 2 beers ahead of me in life. Super proud of you on and off the water. You have come so far in this chapter of life, and you just have so many more chapters still to write. Can you talk about how these motivational factors have impacted your drive and passion positively along your journey? Bambini Club at OWC. Mom's prize wall, point system, similar to a Chuck E. Cheese prize wall. Family Ripper of the Day, where every family member had a trick of the day to master. The winner got to pick the dinner location.
Yep.
And then just overall riding with Team Stuckey. Friday summer Slurpee trick challenges with any of the locals that wanted to participate at the park. Points chase weekly challenges leading up to nationals. Like 1 week you focus on the right kicker, 1 week you just focus on rooftop, and then traveling with Team OWC together. All Dad's fundamental challenges, all 180s, all 360s, all 540s, before moving up to the next progression step in your overall progression. All of the various pros you got to ride countless laps behind. Those pros were almost like your secret unpaid coach of the day. So many to name, but so thankful for them all. And you were the little bro to so many people. Watching Aaron Gunn, Yonel, Jamie Neville, Chad Worrell, Chandler, Jay Roner, I'm sure I'm missing a ton, play countless games of spin to win and games of wake. Theo Kester's countless attempts to encourage air tricks at OWC, even when they were just hated on by everyone. Trent, your brother, setting the bar high, and you always being that competitive little brother that wanted to beat him. And then the first time you beat him at King of Wake at OWC, and how you changed your phone ringtone to, I am the king, I am the king, I am the king, and had your mom call you repeatedly. Now we're up into this chapter. How is it traveling and hanging with the best wakeboarders in the world? And then finally, your ability to mentor and inspire others. And one final message, just a heartfelt thank you to everyone in the wakeboard community that's been a part of Trent and Gavin's journey, whether it was for 5 minutes or 10 plus years. From visiting OWC to giving a high five on the dock, to sending an encouraging message, to providing positive feedback, giving a pointer, sending Burger King in Lithuania, giving an idea, anything wakeboarding. You are greatly loved and appreciated. Thank you from Team Stuckey.
Very heartfelt at the end there.
That's quite a lot to take in.
Yeah, that was a bit. So, I mean, there was a lot of like the early days stuff, so like the Bambini Club, Mom's Prize Wall, like, and I think you can hit on any of that stuff if you remember what she like the things she was bringing up. But like, I guess as a whole, how does that? Because that's like a unique, I guess, motivational tool. I guess some of those things, like, it's an interesting way to grow up, you know, and like I'm curious on how that would shape you and Trent as a rider, like the Slurpee stuff, like all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't think like I didn't notice it. It was kind of just like there happening, you know, enjoying it, and then it kind of all added up to the role it's played. But I'll start with the Bambini Club. So that was basically just kids club, you know, Saturday or Sunday morning. That's where me and Trent really started clicking on the cable, because you could go there before hours, ride slow speed, and ride with any of the operators. She brought up Theo. Theo was the manager at OWC when I started, and he went on, you know, managed there for several years and then went over to open another cable park in Orlando. But he fully, like, recognized us and I guess what we were capable of, I guess, because he was just there pushing us no matter, like, what it was. She said air tricks. He was a big air trick guy, but it was anything. Like, I remember him on the side of the cable screaming at me for like an hour when I wanted to hit the pool gap, and I would just ride by it. And he was there the whole hour until I hit it. And I was like, oh, that wasn't that bad. You know, I was probably 7. But there was countless times, like, you know, he was there. One time he pulled a splinter out of Trent's foot from the deck at OW. And Trent's there screaming at the top of his lungs, crying. And he sits there for an hour to get this little splinter out of his foot. You know, he's probably deterring customers screaming at the front of OWC. And he was like the best. He was like I don't know, he's just another figure in my life that means a lot. So that was Kids Club, and that's where we got started.
Yeah.
The prize wall, this is funny when she explains it.
Mama's Prize Wall.
She goes and like makes this whole sheet. So my mom's a teacher. So all these little things has to come from that in some sort of way. So she makes this prize wall, and it's like, it's got LED lights, you know, it's got toys, you know, iPod touches.
Oh, she's kitted
stuff.
out.
Oh, and it's on this wall in our living room, you know, and there's like pink pieces of paper, 100 points, 50 points, like, you know, 1,000 points. And basically she made this sheet where you have to do a trick once. It was land it once or try it 3 times, and then you could check it. When you land it 3 times, it was unlocked. Okay? So there was a sheet, and they would make the tricks. Her and my dad would make the tricks on there. And you had to go down the sheet, and you would get 10 points, 5 points per trick, you know? And like, depending on the difficulty, it was more or less. And then you added up your tricks after your session, you know, because let's say you did, you know, 3 back 5s. That means you got it unlocked 20 points. You tried 3 new tricks that were on the list, so you get 5 points each. You add them up, and then use those points to get something off the wall. And it was just like, it was a creative, fun way to have me and my brother try something new and like keep it fun on the water. Like, there was little rewards.
That's sick.
So
That's super sick.
That is something that she did that I've never heard like anywhere else. And I guarantee you that's the teacher in her.
Yeah.
I don't know what else. The Slurpee challenge.
The Slurpee challenge. I definitely.
Okay, so this kind of went from me and Trent to every single kid at the cable. Same rule applies. Land it 3 times on lock. You try it 3 times, you can check it off, or you land it once, you can check it off. So it went from me and Trent to, you know, 20 kids at the cable. She'd make a trick for, and you either had to try it 3 times or land it. So if you did that, you got the Slurpee. So my mom was taking carloads of kids from OWC to 7-Eleven, getting Slurpees, driving them back, take the next group of 5-6 kids, them to 7-Eleven, drive back, next group. And this was like every weekend, you know, and sometimes like it was multiple days, like it was all the time. And this was like another little reward she did like with us that just turned into a whole community, like group grom thing. And I don't know, it was so, like, it's so little in the grand scheme. You know, a Slurpee is what, $1 or $2, and it probably led to more progression than anything else.
Yeah. Well, it's the little things, right? Like, it's those little things, especially as a kid. It's like Slurpee's huge. That's like a big deal as a little kid.
Yeah, dude, I'm a sugar addict. Dude.
That's why you pick the chocolate milk, dude. More sugar in the chocolate than there is in the normal
Heck yeah,
one.
dude.
It's subconscious right there. Okay, so I mean, there was a lot of good things in terms of like progression and how you're getting you and Trent just continuing on this path of like, I guess it's like reward based. Like you're kind of like getting rewards for all these things, and that's probably associating a love for the sport as a whole, because it's like all this positive reinforcement I'm getting from this awesome sport. Like, of course I'm gonna keep doing it, right? Like it's sick.
Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily like, oh, you have to do this to get it. You wanted to do the trick either way. You were stoked on landing the trick, and then on top of that, you get a Slurpee. Yeah. Win-win. So it was like best thing, probably. I think any kid could go out there and do the same thing right now. Maybe they want another hour of screen time instead of a Slurpee.
That's literally what I was going to say.
But same thing. And then I guess my dad was on there too about his fundamentals.
Yeah.
He was the king of fundamentals. Even yesterday at the cable, he's telling this kid, oh, you did a back five. That's cool. But can you do switch front five, toe front five, heel front five? Like he went through everything and it was making fun of him. And the poor kid just was stoked he landed a back five.
Not good enough, bud.
It's the funniest thing. I remember one time I was probably, I don't know, I was young. And I remember I was so young, I don't remember everything. But I just remember I had to ride 3 laps in a row on the beginner cable. And I think I got the chose where we went to dinner. 3 laps straight, switch. No changing between corners, just switch.
No reverts?
No.
Okay.
None of that.
Interesting.
So that's one of the things. And it was from, riding switch all the way to doing all 8 720s.
Yeah.
He was pretty big on fundamentals. And I think that honestly has helped more than anything. Even the fundamentals, when you fall on a 180 or a switchback 180, the falls aren't going to hurt, right? It's a very mellow, basic trick. But, every big trick is a smaller trick broken down. And if you think about it like that, it makes everything a lot easier. So maybe a Pete Rose for someone that's 12 years old sounds like a big trick, but it's really just a toe back roll and a front 3. And you can do both those off the medium kicker. So when you do it off XL, it should be easy. And then you know how to fall on a toe back roll. You know how to fall on a front 3. Your injury risk is
it goes way
down. Way down. I think, knock on wood, but I think that's what helped me and Trent avoid so much injury is that we know how to fall, and it's all goes back to basics because every big trick is just built up of little tricks.
Oh, it's all stepping stones. That's a great way to kind of put it. And the fundamentals are important. Yeah. Some people like them more than others, but they are important. No doubt about that.
Oh, they definitely suck. They're to go ride switch 3 times when you're 7 years old around the cable and not change. Definitely sucks, but rather do it then than do it now,
Very true. Let's talk Ronix, because I think you and your brother, I guess your family as a whole, you could say, got involved with Ronix probably before you can even really remember, I would imagine. Or do you remember that?
Yeah, super young.
Okay.
I was probably 6. What's in my mental age right now? I landed a 7 at 7. So if I'm before that, it was younger than 7.
Pre-7.
Yeah, so that's why I'm thinking right now every time I go back to my age. But so Mike Ferraro used to do boat coaching at OWC. And if you don't know Mike Ferraro, he's one of the upper guys at Ronix in Square One. And he is a huge coach. He's notorious for his coaching. He before it was OWC, it was Mike Ferraro's coaching, at that boat lake at the back. So he noticed me and Trent, working our way up the ranks and tricks and whatnot, and seeing we were there all the time, and said, "Hey, let's get you guys on Ronix," because we were riding boat boards, the Vision. It was a 120 centimeter molded fins, no slider base, no sidewall, and that's what we were riding, just straight from performance, under the feet. We were riding so much plastic, the molded fins would grind all the way down till there was no more molded fins. And then the there was no slider base, but then the base would go through. And my dad's epoxying the fins and the slider base to make these boards last as long as possible, because there was no kids board on the market at that era, at that time period. So he was the driving force on getting a kids board through Ronix. and that's where we got a couple prototypes. You know, my dad really took the advantage in that whole process of designing a board that was kid friendly and working alongside Ronix. And that's how we worked our way in. Shortly after Liquid Force, Slingshot, they both came out, you know, with their kids boards, but that was the first one.
Yeah.
And that was what started our time at Ronix.
Okay. So I guess kind of walk through the progression a little bit, because like you said, you guys are helping develop, you know, the kids board, and obviously Ronix is like not right in the backyard, but you have Lake Ronix right in the backyard, right, at this point. So are you guys, when you guys start going there, like sometimes to do like photo shoots and like get more incorporated with the team, like walk through that progression, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, so I think they bought Lake Ronix in 2013 or 14, something like that. So I think we were there from like the first photo shoots on the kids board. But that was the only time we would go out there. Everyone else goes out there during the week. You know, that's Chad's job. That's Ruck's job. Like those guys at Ronix, that's their job, is to go out there. So they go out during the week. We're at school. My parents are at work. We don't go out there on the weekend. It's really not that common for us to go out there. We got, you know, here and there, we find a weekend where maybe Jake can go drive the 2.0 or go ride the boat or something like that. So I wouldn't say we utilize Ronix's full potential of Lake Ronix until way later.
Yeah.
But board-wise, the evolution of the LF'n Vital Schnook was pretty crazy. It was like there for a year. They made it in bigger sizes. Obviously, other boards came to like 134, 135. The LF'n came in at 126, and that was like first proper kids board. Along the years, they put our name on it, Team Stuckey. It was, could call it pro model.
Do you get royalties on that unit?
No, we're not going to call it a pro model. And that was the start of like us in Ronix and whatnot. And that was like kind of the evolution. And then eventually that board has changed into just in the couple of recent years, it's changed. Yeah. But what else was it?
I don't know, just get like the continued progression, I guess, of like as you and Trent are getting older, like your relationship with Ronix kind of growing over the years.
Yeah, so, you know, they're going to come out to the cable more. We go out there more. You know, eventually we start crossing paths more, seeing our talent or ability on a board and whatnot. And then I'd say during the early, we were going contests around the U.S., and we built up a name for ourselves in the U.S. pretty like big name, I'd say. Like within the U.S., outside the U.S., it wasn't as big. In the U.S., solid, winning U.S. nationals, all the contests here and whatnot. And then COVID kind of happened, and we didn't really go outside the U.S. At all. But during COVID, it allowed us to go to Lake Ronix every day. So now that Trent can drive, he's 16, I'm 14 or 15. Dave AV is in the States. He stayed at my house for 2 months. And this is where it all started. Lake Ronix every single day for months. We built a kicker, put more wood on the kicker, more wood on the kicker, more wood on the kicker.
We're going vert with that thing.
And then this is where I picked up camera. Like, I picked up camera here and there, but this is where I got into filming.
Yeah.
Because Trent, he was like a bit stronger. He was kind of older. At this time, like, he's older. He can go higher off the kicker. You know, he's a little more grown. And he has taken this booter to the next level. So I'm filming this. I'm hitting the booter too, but this is like where I'm filming. And Dave AV is filming. You know, Josh and Brandon Harris are driving. Eric Ruck is there filming as well, and he's witnessing what's happening up there. And Trent's actually at the point where he's not even telling them what happens. He landed double Moby Dick, didn't tell anyone but me, like us there. I filmed it, and my dad. Like, he didn't tell anyone outside of that.
I love that.
Double KGB didn't tell anyone. Double roll blind and double T2B went out there on the smaller kicker, landed that, didn't tell anyone, didn't post anything. Like, he's just having fun, right? Except we're filming it. And then my dad starts leaking these tricks to all the guys at Ronix. He's like, they need to know what's going on. You know, we're going out there. It's the back lake. If they are at Lake Ronix, they're going to be at the front doing work or whatever. They don't see what's happening back there. It's kind of pretty separate. So my dad's leaking these things, and without telling us, though. And me and Trent will be there, and they come up, and they're like, hey, like, you did double cage B. I heard you did switch double P. I heard you did double Moby Dick. And Trent's like, how do you know this? And Trent's like asking Dave, asking me, asking the
like,
2.0 drivers, like, who, like, are you yapping? And then he goes home, tells my dad, yo, Ruck found out I did a double Moby Dick. And he's like, huh. But didn't ever tell us. I found this out way later. And I think, like, this is when Ronix was like, oh, my God, we need to click them in. Like, obviously, what they're doing in the park's crazy or whatnot, but this is beyond, like, anything we've ever seen.
Beyond perception.
And then that's where the ranks with Ronix started for Trent. I kept going. You know, next year we traveled to Europe. I made a podium at Munich Mash. That was kind of my breakthrough. Unfortunately, knocked out at LAO by Trent, who won the contest. Next contest was knocked out by Timo, who got second to Trent, and then was able to break through at Munich Mash. And got podium there. And that kind of started my part. Trent popped already. And then that kind of is where I go. And I come back home. You know, we're riding Lake Ronix a bit. I start filming video part that's called Status, which I had clips from before, but nothing like Trent had. And I was like, I can't put this stuff. Like, I want more. Trent's got something crazy, which he put out right before we went to Europe.
So Sincerely Trent had come out right before you guys went to Europe, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's already out.
So that happened. Went to Europe, came back, and I'm like, well, I want like to finish this and have it come out. So I'm getting clips of Lake Ronix. I go to the streets some, ride boats some, and I was like, my purpose is to click every box. Like, I can't go out and do double mobs as easy as Trent did. So I'm gonna check every box: ride boat, ride the streets, ride the cable. And then that whole winter, rode a lot of cable. After you go to Europe and you ride a couple contests, you know exactly what you need to be at the top of those contests. So I rode a lot of cable that winter. Took a lot of time to learn a back mob 5, and that's why I do it so much, I think. It's because
It's this contest stable these days.
It's how much time I spent to learn that trick. Kind of, like, there's a connection now every time I do it because I'm pretty proud of it. Because it took me forever, dude. I was butt checking like crazy. Anyways, build up a bag of kicker tricks because that's what I was lacking. Drop the video part in May. I think May. It was in May. Right
Good
before
on you, spring release. Smart.
Yeah. So that winter goes through, drop the video part in May, and then go straight to LAO, which is the first contest of the season. Video goes out. It's doing good. Like, in my opinion, it's doing good. Like, and then go to LAO, get second place, which is my first podium at that contest. And while Trent goes back to back. And I was like, wow, this is sick. Like, we just went 1 and 2. We're in Europe for 6 days for this contest only. Made it work. Go back home. And then the rest of the season was kind of just up from there. Like, I just rode the momentum. Video part, contest, podium, straight off the bat, and just rode the momentum. Next contest, Red Bull Wake Duel. Biggest contest of the year, by far. There's contests that there's riders that don't go to contests, like organizations, IWWF, WWA. People don't go to LEO because it's too cold. But every single rider is at Wake Duel.
Yeah.
And I ended up working my way through the bracket there. And then right before the final round, I go head-to-head with my brother, which I don't have a good case for Trent. At this, my ratio for going up against Trent was not very good at this time point. But we break through. So I'm in the top 1 and 2 head-to-head, and I win the contest. I remember I'm there, and I'm like, dude, do I bring up a board if I go up? Like, because I'm still not on contract with Ronix.
Trent is, though.
Trent was brought on that year before when he popped. And I'm still sitting there. Should I just bring up a follow sticker? Like, should I bring him aboard? What should I do? Like, I remember calling my dad. He's not gonna make the call, because if he makes the call and then it ends up being wrong, I'm totally gonna put that on him, and he knew that. That's just the way I am. I'm gonna find an excuse somewhere. So he's like, "Do you?" Brought the board up. No one outside of like wakeboarding, everyone inside of wakeboarding knew I rode Ronix. But the reason I brought a board on that podium is because the people who knew I didn't have a contract were the only people that needed to know, which is people that work for the other brands. So they already knew. I was already talking to them. Like, if I wasn't, I was probably being really dumb if I didn't talk to them. So you gotta go talk to them. They're not always gonna come to you. So win that contest, move on, go through the rest of the season, win worlds, get second in the other worlds. Trent wins one, second in the other. Bang. Win the team contest at Munich Mash. And the season just like was bolts. Like, not, I think this year I rode better.
Yeah.
But that season, for me, was my breakthrough season. Podium at a lot of the contests I went to, and made decent money. Came home, and I'm starting to chill now. I'm like, yeah, I just had a 6 season, and that's when the conversation with Liquid Force fully like went into bigger terms.
Okay, so I think we dive into that in a little bit, because that was like a really good run through of like I wanted to bring up like both your guys' breakout years, because I feel like Trent's was, I think when Sincerely Trent came out, I feel like people knew his name before for sure. Like, Trent Stuckey's a really good wakeboarder. But when that edit came out, it's like, oh no, Trent Stuckey is like, he means business. And then he followed it up with a really good contest season, obviously. And so it's like, to me, that would be his breakout year, where everybody in the world now knows who Trent Stuckey is. And I think yours is like this, the following year, basically the same path you almost followed. But yours came without like a contract, right? Like, you don't have a board sponsor. So I got a couple things before we dive into status. I'm curious on, like, you said you were questioning whether or not to bring up your board like on the podium. And I feel like nowadays I see like all sorts of sides of it, where it's like, you don't have a contract, but you bring the board up like you did, where it's like, it's almost in good faith of like, I don't have a contract, but it's like, you're still taking care of me. Like, we've had a good relationship. I don't want to be like that asshole where it's like, I don't see a future with us, so I'm not bringing up the board, even though like I'm getting free boards or whatever. And I'm just curious where you, like, if you were to give advice to somebody, like, would you go back and do it the same way you did it, or would you change it up? Like you said, I guess it didn't matter, because the people who knew, and people who didn't know, you know.
Yeah, I think in the end, the long run, it was the best decision I could have made. They always supported me. Like, they gave me boards since I was, 7, 8 years old. They've been there. They've helped out. They supported some flights and stuff. So definitely the right move, because like I said, the other people that worked for brands are the only people that need to know, and they already knew.
Yeah.
So, like, LF has people at those events. Slingshot has people at those events sometimes. Hyperlight.
And word can travel if it needs to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I'm definitely glad I brought it up. I think it even gives you more, like, it's just better. Like, let's say if you didn't bring it up, and then, like, maybe the other brands know, oh, shoot, like, he thinks he's coming. We don't have as much as a negotiation.
Yeah.
So I think it's just best. You just bring it up, like, it says thanks to them, and it looks good.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I've gone back and forth on like my thoughts on it, but it you made a good point from like a rider's perspective of, if the people, like, you're talking to other brands, you bringing the board up is not going to make a difference of like getting in contract with the brand you brought the board up, or a different, like, that's not where the negotiations are happening, right?
No,
like,
it doesn't change anything but like what other riders think.
Yeah.
And that, at the end of the day, that doesn't.
They're not the ones signing your contracts. They're not the ones paying your bills. So that's a huge thing. So let's talk status before we dive in a little bit more Ronix, and then the switch to Liquid Force. So you breezed over status, but I want to dive into this a little bit, because you mentioned that you wanted Trent hit the cable super hard and did a bunch of MBDs, insane edit. Obviously, everything we talked about will be linked below. Go ahead and check it out. But the composition of this edit and this video seemed like, I rewatched it back, and I feel like you have to watch an edit several times. Like, the first time I think you watch an edit, it's like for pure enjoyment. Like, you're not breaking it down really. You're just like, oh, good song, good trick, good spot selection, all that stuff. And then a couple times after, at least when I watch an edit, it's like you're noticing things that you didn't notice before. So like when I say that, I mean at Lake Ronix, you did back-to-back tricks. It was hardway front two and then switch hardway front two, and they were back-to-back. And to me, that seems like an intentional thing. Like when you're talking composition of a video section, to put them in back-to-back, it's almost like I do things both ways and I do them well. Is that something that you thought of when you're editing, like when you're editing something? Because you edited that, right?
Yeah, everything was myself. It was, and if someone else filmed it, it was likely with my camera.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think 1,000%. I think I do this more than some other riders maybe, and it's just something I've always done, and I just continue doing it. So there was a lot of, composition amongst the parts. So the whole winch section was my first time, like, in the streets. Went, checked the boxes. Like, that was the whole point. Dry start, drop, switch hit, reg hit, handrail. Did a reg front two, did a switch front two. Like, it wasn't anything, like, too crazy, but I checked the boxes. And it was the same at Lake Ronix, like, hit 2.0, hit full size, hit a boat wake, hit the streets, bang. And I kind of opened the part at Lake Ronix, and those were definitely, like, thought of like that. To put them back to back, it's going to be more noticeable.
Wasn't the opening clip that backlit in the streets? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, sorry. It was.
But after that, it goes into Lake Ronix. Yeah.
So, yeah. So I was debating a long time what the opener should be. Because I had
a great opener.
I had a trick in mind. Didn't land it. Made a whole trip. Didn't land it. And sometimes that's how it goes. But that was my first time filming for a video, and I didn't know that's how it goes. Now, I should have known. Now a little more mature and think it through. Had another trick, didn't land it. Bang. I'm going to put this one as the opener. I already started editing. Like, I'm just going to put this one as the opener. But the whole idea was to make that second song the gaps. So I did that second song I edited first, and then the first song because I had all those clips that I wanted, so I could go ahead and get that done. If I didn't like it, I can change it, and then I just have less on my plate to work on.
Yeah.
So I kind of worked backwards a little bit, and I did open with that backlip, and then
it's a huge backlip, one of the biggest backlips probably on a wakeboard. I would imagine it's up there.
Yeah, it was pretty scary.
In terms of height from the kicker, like she's a big one. I also want to talk about. So you mentioned the gaps. The ender at terminus was it back three or switch back three? Back three.
So another thing, it was toe back three to 50-50 over the pool gap.
Yeah.
So that was back to back with a switchback three, melon front three.
That's what it was. Okay, in the transition rail or whatever.
Which are exact opposites because I did a front three off the toe back three, and then I did back.
You're thinking about this a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And those are So those two gaps were done on a trip with John Dryling when he was filming for his video to release his second unit feature. So he went to Elevated and then went to Terminus and filmed some gaps that kind of like he thought if you combine those, it would make his second feature. So I just tagged along. Me and Dave tagged along, and I got clips at Elevated and at Terminus, and then used them for myself. And then kind of like traded off. I filmed him, he filmed me, kind of vibe.
So at Terminus, I mean, these gaps, I think the gap where the ender, your toe back 3 to 50, I mean, I watched it back, and there's not a whole lot of room from where you land to like the safety of that flat bar. So like, how do you get the speed when you're talking about messing with the speed of the cable and you're gapping things this big? How do you gauge like when you commit to it? It's like, okay, well, this speed feels right. Is it just a feeling? Are you erring to the side of it and being like, okay, I can suck my knees up and get, if I need to, I can make it? Like,
yeah, there's kind of two different things I think about. One, I'm with John Dryling, who's the king of speeding up the cable, which helps.
Graham's up there too. Graham's, I feel like, got a big
one.
One.
Him and Graham are for sure at the top of that list.
Yeah.
I think, luckily I was with him, kind of helped out. So he has gapped the pool before and was like, I think you should go this. This is what I did. And I gapped the inside first, where it's just a down rail. Switch, heel side. Heel side makes it a lot easier. So I got to the side, then I got to there, then I got the stairs, and then go there. So it's kind of just like not quite fundamentals, but I'm definitely building it up. Like, I don't want to go straight in. So I think we ended up going 45 kilometers for that.
Jeez.
which the worst part wasn't necessarily a gap. It was full pulling, because when you're going that fast, the cable wants to pull you in a lot more than it normally does. And what I mean by this in simple terms is when you take the corners, you're not going through the buoys at all. You're cutting every single corner. That's how different it is riding. So when I'm trying to go to the outside of the cable and land 50-50 on a flat rail where I can't lean, it took me a really long time to full pull it. So that was a battle in itself. But I think landing at the front of it, like you said, just
it was close, dude. It was like there wasn't much room for
sure. And I think it just looks better. I didn't really notice it until I watched it back, but it definitely.
You're talking full pull.
It's definitely pretty cool.
Yeah,
that it's right there.
It's a great clip. Great clip. Speaking of John Dryling, we got another guest question from John himself, and I think it pertains to this trip that you guys mentioned going up to Elevated.
I know where he's going.
So first off, Hunter, congrats on episode 69. You made it.
Thank you.
But we're here for Gavin, and hopefully I don't regret this question in the morning. But Gavin, why don't you start off by telling him the story of you, me, and Dave driving up to Elevated and Terminus to get some clips, starting off with why we were so late and what happened on the drive up to Elevated. Don't spare any details. And part 2, how old were you and how fast were you going when you got the speeding ticket? And how much of a G is Momma Stuckey for letting you continue on that trip and get your 2 enders for status? I hope you guys have a fun one, and I look forward to hearing this podcast.
Yeah, don't spare any details, Gavin.
Just putting the beans out there. Okay, this is a long one. Not many people know this, but it's a podcast, so let's put it out there.
It's a good one. It's a good one from what I heard.
Have you heard this before?
No, just from the brief thing that John told me.
Okay, so the plan was, like I said, John's going Elevated, then Terminus. I'm going to tag along. Dave AV was his filmer. I'm going to go tag along, film, get clips as well. So John's got this bright idea to make his hair purple before the trip starts. So it's in all the clips, and it's like it adds some pizzazz, So I'm ready to go at my house. Like I think I was doing online school at the time, finished it up and was like ready, waiting around. So John actually shows up maybe 3 or 4 hours late to my house. And at this point I'm like, dude, like, let's go. I've been ready. Like, what are we doing? And he shows up with purple hair, and I was like, oh God, like, this is great. And then, so I'm 15 at the time. So John is going to be my guardian for the trip. So he sits in the passenger seat, lets me drive. We get just to the Florida border, where if you're from the States, Georgia is not the place you want to speed.
Georgia and Ohio are 1-2. Don't speed there.
So I'm 15, parents not in the car. John's got his headphones on. He's not paying attention. And I'm like, I'm gonna shorten some time up off this trip. John showed up 3 hours late. I'm gonna get there 3 hours early.
You gotta make some time up, baby.
Yeah, dude. I'm getting faster. So I'm maxing out his car, which is a Mazda. And I'm maxing out, go over the bridge, and I see this car that I thought was broke down. Turns out it was a police officer, and I just kept going. And I'm like, oh, dude, don't worry, we're gonna get a few minutes off the trip. Like, we're gonna get there faster. Turns out, did not get there faster. Get pulled over, going at 32 miles per hour over the speed limit.
I heard 105 was a number I heard.
Yeah, 102 and a 70.
102 and a 70.
Which, for you kilometer European people, that is like 55 kilometers over, I think. Which isn't good. And we get pulled over, and they see me, 15 years old, driving the car. Dave AV is in the back, doing Dave things. And John is in the passenger seat with purple hair. And the day he dyed it purple. So it was like bright. Cars packed, parents are there. What are you doing? I'm just driving, man. Like, they know I'm here, and they take all of us out of the car, search the car for drugs. Ends up adding hour and a half to our trip because we're on the side of the road. They call in backup. They talk to me, make sure John and Dave aren't molesting me.
Kidnapping you, yeah.
Exactly. And they want to make sure I was safe. and searched the car for drugs. Actually, give me a sobriety test on the side of the road, and then worst is the police officer called my mom and explained the situation, and I'm just there listening because he's talking, and there's nothing I could do at that point. It spilled milk, and that sums it up. But the worst part is my mom called me just after and was like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Oh, that's worse.
And if your mom says that, she is smoking furious, dude. That is the worst thing that could possibly happen. So I didn't get a speeding ticket, just a court date, which was in Georgia, where it happens. My mom's like, should I fly you home? Like, are you okay being there? Is John a bad influence? Like, do you need to come home because, you're in a lot of trouble? And I was like, no, it's fine. But I definitely thought about it the entire time. I'm in tears. I'm 15. I'm like, not thinking right. How am I supposed to get clips, Mom? You just ruined it. Like, God dang it, this officer was there. And that was literally in the first 3 hours of our trip, and that just kicked it off with a bang.
Yeah.
Had to follow that one up.
That's how you get it started right there, dude. So what was the court date for then? You just had to go and be like, I'm not going to drive fast again.
I had to go and...
Philosopher.
Well, it was a super speeder state. Because I was so fast over the limit, they couldn't give me a speeding ticket. So I had to get a lawyer and go to court on this date to, fight it and say, I'm not going to do this again. Like, please forgive me and whatnot. Luckily, this town is one of the smallest towns in Georgia, and the lawyer ended up taking care of things, so I didn't have to drive all the way there. But it ended up being like 2 days before the court date where things got finalized off.
Yeah.
But it was expensive, not gonna lie. Definitely contest earnings are going.
You drained him for that one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, is John a bad influence? Remains to be seen on that one.
Just as good as he is bad.
He's 5 out of 10. He's right. He's the contest make. That's exactly what he is, right down the middle. Let's talk grounded, because I think this is a kind of a good transition to go into, like you were kind of talking about your relationship with Ronix, and then I feel like this is basically the goodbye, right? This is the last
farewell.
The farewell. So
Yeah.
I guess explain your mentality, because it's not something that people often do, because it's something that doesn't often happen, I guess, when you leave a board brand with a really good relationship with enough time where the transition can be, super peaceful.
Yeah, so I guess to start, to go back a couple months before that to try and give a whole picture here, I'd say in November is when I first got the terms from LF and what was on the table. And I was pretty happy with that. Did not really think I could get more from Ronix exactly. And so I went there, and Grounded is a few-minute part filmed mainly at Lake Ronix with the concept as a farewell, because most people do not leave a brand on good terms, especially the last couple of people that left Ronix. They weren't so stoked. So I wanted to show, look, you guys did a whole lot for me in my career this far, and I'm grateful for that. I can appreciate it, and I just wanted to put that out there. So I did that by making a video part where, I utilized Lake Ronix, which could be my last time doing that publicly or on a video. So I wanted to do some ideas I had that, I wanted to get off the table before it was too late. And that was the whole idea. So I split a quarter pipe in half, did some gaps, did the bi-level, and basically did some old clips that showed baby Gavin wearing Ronix, riding Ronix, and all that to say thank you, because they did a lot for me and my time there, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
Okay. So, there's some things to dissect. I think it's my favorite edit you've had, just because the music hits so hard to it. So you're filming a goodbye edit, I guess. You mentioned the QP to QP, quarter pipe to quarter pipe. Were there any close calls with any of these QP to QP hits?
Yeah, there's a couple. It could have went really bad. I think the hardest part is when you go up something that vertical at the top, your speed changes a whole lot, because you go from, edging in your building speed, then you go to a point where your board is, 90 degrees vertical, and then you're losing speed. But then once you release from that, you lose all resistance, and then you gain speed back up. It's almost like a slingshot.
Yeah.
So that was pretty hard to wrap my head around, just because, you don't have any experience with it other than what's going down right then. So my original idea was to make a spine. You go up and down.
Like straight
That
up.
was very short-lived. Went straight up and went straight to the side pretty fast. So we had to improvise, and it's kind of like sat on a 45-degree angle with nothing in between but water and just straight edge plastic. So there was times where I, maybe left weird and landed inches from like my back being just like half on water, half on plastic, and probably cracking my back. You're like chiropractor. Or more. And some of the other ones was like I did kicker to the top and then hopped from one to the next. So what was, it's all about timing and speed with that. The skill, it's just hopping. And I'm like not overthinking that part. The hard part is going from the kicker to the first one, because if you come up short, you're screwed. If you go past it, you would think you're fine, but then you're going into the front of the next one.
So you got to close out, basically.
So what I did was I started by just hitting one and then moved the next one in. However, if I didn't get that clip that day and I needed to come back, it was in a completely different spot because we're wakeboarders and we don't take anything seriously. So we're anchoring to like trees, and we put a picnic table in the water to like hold it and some tires. So you're restarting if you come back. But I think the most important thing is to go step by step and just add to it.
Yeah. Work your way up.
Yeah.
Like everything else.
Exactly.
How many indie grabs did you do? Because that's the opening clip, right? Is indie?
Yeah. Up to down. Just to grab. Didn't want to overdo it. I don't know. I kind of like how it lines up. But I would say we probably spent 5 or 6 days on just that trick alone. No matter if I got it, I was looking at the clip. I can do this better. There can be better lighting. There could be a lot of things that could be different. So you probably film that clip for 5 days alone, just the line itself. Just because I'm so big on critiquing my own writing and myself that I was like, I know I can do it better. And the whole point to match the song was the lighting. So it being sunny, I think, sets the bar for the rest of the video.
Yeah, it definitely does. Especially, you have some of those B-roll clips where like it's your head and then the sun behind it. It's like it's got a whole theme, and it's definitely edited to that theme, which I think is why it's one of my favorites. Like I rewatch it pretty often just because like I'm a big guy. I'm a big music guy. I think the music sets the tone. Like I feel like every time I talk about it, the music like bumps up a percentage in terms of importance from the edit. Like I started at 50 and now I feel like I'm at like 60% is music importance to like writing is 40. But I think it's a very well edited edit. And so you said in November you were talking with Looking Force. I'm assuming the contract starts then in the new year?
So typically it would start, January 1st. Because Looking Force was like going through different things at the time, I didn't like fully hop on gear until February. So it actually gave me time to film this video. So I got my wisdom teeth out in December, and I was like, oh, dang it, because that was my time I was planning to film the video. I was going to have it out and then right around the new year, release it and announce the switch. So I was like, oh, dang it, I totally screwed myself here. But got lucky, extended it out. All board companies were kind of like in an iffy spot this winter with everything that's going on. So, like, was able to continue just riding Ronix. And then 3 weeks later, wisdom teeth were not there, but my mouth was solid. And got to filming. Filmed all of it in 1 month and then edited in a week or two. Yeah. And I was looking at clips and stuff as we go, making sure everything was solid, colors, so, framing and everything. So it made it super easy. I think one of the biggest things is just planning it out. I had a sheet I was telling you earlier. I drew every quarter pipe variation I wanted to do. I knew the exact song, knew where I wanted to put B-roll, what B-roll I wanted to have. And this made my editing job 100 times easier than it did for status.
Yeah.
Because I was all over the place. First video part, horrors.
You learn a lot.
You learn a lot. Yeah, that's one thing to say.
Okay, so another thing I want to talk about before we finish up on the switch from Ronix to Liquid. Explain the names of your edits, because you've got a few. You got status, 48, grounded. They're all very succinct, but I feel like each word kind of describes maybe what you're trying to portray.
Yeah, I've always been trying to stay away from just the stereotypical
Season edit.
classic name, whatever it is. Try to set myself apart and be different in some way. So status is probably the easiest to understand, because first video, trying to get my name across outside the U.S. over to people and show people, look, this is what I can do. So this is my status on the board at that time. I can do this, whatever. 48 was filmed in 2 days, so 48 hours, which is also pretty easy.
Quick math, nice.
Yeah. And grounded, there was a bunch of names going through my head for this one. This was probably the one I thought the most on. But essentially it means when you're grounded as a kid, you're kind of like locked into a room, right? You do something bad, you get grounded, and you go into the room and you get locked, like in your bedroom. So what I kind of meant is grounded as this is what I'm going to be doing for a long time. This contract to me kind of solidified myself as a pro wakeboarder and gave me a career here. So I'm saying I'm grounded, I'm sticking around, I'm pretty happy with everything that's going on, and this is what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, here to stay.
Yeah, but not that. Not that title.
Because that has already been taken.
A couple times.
Okay, let's finish up the switch from Ronix to Liquid. So were there any other brands in the conversation? In serious contention for you when you were doing this, having this conversation and stuff?
Yeah, I had 3, and that was my whole goal, was to get 3. That whole contest season where I considered my pop-out year, I was like, yeah, I want to get 3, put them all in a group chat together. And that was the goal was to get 3. So I had 3, and that was...
Job, O'Brien, and Connolly probably just in the loop there.
Yeah, those are it.
So there was conversations were happening, not just with Liquid Force and Ronix.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever, I guess, from the outside looking in, for me, it's pretty obvious that you and Trent on the same brand isn't going to work. It's just not, as a brand, I wouldn't want it either. I wouldn't necessarily want the brothers on the same brand too. Did you know, was that ever in the back of your head? Did that ever creep in at a certain point where it's Ronix is awesome, but it's just not
yeah,
cards.
Towards the end of my time there, like I said, Trent got had that pop out year, but before that pop out year in the fall, he was landing all these double mobs, and they saw that. So bang, he's pro team. Me had that pop out year, and I was like, maybe I get it before the pop out year. Nothing really happened. There's an age difference of 2 years between us. So I'm like, yeah, it's expected and whatnot. But towards the end of my time there, I was like, well, no matter what I do, I'm going to be 2 years behind them, because they brought him on 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And no matter what, if they say, look, we see you guys the same, you're so different. A lot of people say we're different riders. We are. We ride completely different. We work on different things. Our style is, apples to freaking toes, I'd consider it pretty different. But I'd say it was definitely something I saw and thought probably needed to happen. Just because, there can't be 2 number 1s on the same thing, but there can be 2 number 1s elsewhere.
Yeah. That makes sense. Number 1s. I like it. So what was it about Liquid Force that appealed to you? Because that's the decision that ended up happening.
Yeah, I think I saw the biggest future there. So I think one of the struggling things in wakeboarding is longevity. And, when you see riders turn 30, they get the boot and they're out. Injuries happen, whatnot. But new kids on the block, whatever. But I think it just clicked in a way that I saw myself and where I wanted to be. Their boat stuff is insane. I want to ride boat, like I was saying earlier. I want to do all this stuff. And, I think I fit in with a lot of their team because I traveled with them already. And I think having Tom Fouché as a team manager is something that's pretty cool, and it might get overlooked, but I enjoy it because he's been in my footsteps. He's traveled the world competing as a cable-specific rider, and I think to have that relationship is pretty cool.
Yeah, you can, like, almost like a mentorship. You can kind of go ask him some questions, and he'll probably
Exactly.
give you some good advice.
We've had numerous calls, numerous texts, just like even about life. You know, he can relate in a way that I'm going, or he's already been to.
Yeah.
And just the fact that he understands cable the way he does, and me, starting with cable, being cable specific at the moment, is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your setup then? What do you ride? Liquid Force.
Board, Liquid
boots,
Force,
stance.
Butterstick Pro, Felix Jordi Pro model with the Aero 6X bindings. 6X meaning no slide track.
What size Butterstick?
148.
Okay. And what's the stance?
Currently, it's 18-0.
So you're fully directional stance?
No.
What do you mean 18-0?
So
that would be directional.
You would think. I ride 18-0, which is equivalent to just past 12-12. It's not quite lined up. It's just past.
Oh, 18-0 on one boot.
No, on both.
I'm so confused.
The chassis of the Liquid Force 6X is slightly angled. So if you put it 12-12, the heel of the boot actually ends up slightly closer to the edge of the board than the toe does. So by making this shift, you center your boot, but you don't change the angle.
So your boot is at 18 degrees if you were to measure it. Duck.
So it's pretty much 12-12. It just
or 12. I'm sorry, it's 12 degrees ducked
towards the toe edge of the board, so it's even.
But they're the same.
Yeah.
I thought you meant one boot is like straight on 0-0. The other boot is 18.
No.
Gotcha.
So 18-0 is actually a little past 12-12.
Okay.
But
I'm tracking now.
It's the corner socket, so it's just easy. I can just put it in and tighten it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make that much of a difference.
Okay. Yeah, had a brain fart there. So what width did you say? Did you say width?
Yeah, so the Butterstick has a slide track. So it's about one index finger away from the center.
So almost all the way in.
Yeah, one index finger away from all the way in. And then because of the 6X bindings, it's a little bit further than if you were to ride the 4D.
Okay.
Which is pretty similar, I would say 17.5 inches.
Okay.
Which is 2 out on the Utopia, 1 out on the Kinetic. That's what I always rode.
Shout out people who measure their stances. Never done that before in my entire life. And boat, what do you do on the boat?
1 out.
Have you figured out a board yet, or are you still messing around with
couple
some stuff?
sets on the Unity, and I'm going to try Finn's board. I think so the Unity has these warped fins, and it creates a feel like none of the other boards in the lineup. So it's quite interesting, but if you ride it for long enough, I think you click with it.
Yeah.
If you look at, the whole Liquid Force front line rides that board, and they're killing it. Sam does crazy things on that board, but it felt kind of awkward to me, and because I have little experience riding the boat, I need something that's, I think, a little bit more usual, typical that you normally see.
Okay, that makes sense. So I guess on the cable side of things, though, how did you go about choosing, the Butterstick, and I guess the boots too, but more so the board?
Yeah, so the arrows, so Liquid Force has different cuts on their bindings. Some are lower, some are higher. I preferred the higher ones, and out of those higher ones, the arrows were the softest. So that's why I ended up on those. I think the all-white looks pretty clean.
It is.
Call them the Aero Force 1s. And then board-wise, the Butterstick has way less channels than any other Liquid Force board. And to me, that's where I found most comfortable on plastic. It was quite the change, being it's quite flexier. So it was a big change, but I can prepare for, those landings with a softer board, or take flicking harder for an air trick with a softer board, or with less channels. But it felt the most similar on plastic, which would be the hardest to counteract if it caught.
It's a predictability thing, I feel like.
Exactly.
It's tough. So, okay, that makes sense. I was curious on how. Did you try? I'm sure you tried quite a few.
Yeah, I tried a bunch.
Yeah.
They're all pretty, I liked the Peak on the Water a lot. I didn't like it as much as the Butterstick on plastic. The Tau was fun. It was just, I'm pretty light, so it felt heavy to me.
Yeah.
But there's Oh, you gotta cut that.
I'll bleep it. I'm not gonna cut it. I'll bleep it.
Okay. Sorry, that's next year's board.
You just dropped next year's board, but you're excited for some next year.
That board is super fun. It's not my style, but it's just so playful. Like you can hop on it and have fun no matter what level you are.
The new one coming out. Okay, interesting. But you liked it. Okay. Let's talk relationship with Trent. So, I mean, obviously you guys are in different brands now, but I feel like your relationship with him, competitive wise, I think is really interesting because I'm curious on your mentality going into a contest. Like, he's your brother. You guys love each other. You guys are tight. But on contest, like a contest day, what's the attitude between you guys? What's like the interactions like?
I would say we talk a lot less than you think.
Just on contest days or in general?
Both.
Okay.
Like, some brothers are, super tight. I think we're super tight, but we talk about stuff a lot. But our contest day, I think, we want the best for each other. We're gonna leave each other to get in that headset or whatever they need to do.
Do your own thing, yeah.
Yeah. So, for me, this is a hard one because it's I don't know.
If he let's put it this way: if he wins and you lose, what's your response?
Okay, so there's different circumstances. If he wins and I get second, but I think I should have won, it will be a lot different conversation on the way to the airport or the way home than it would be if I got second. I'm stoked on it.
When was the last time you were stoked on second?
I think okay. So the other day I got third place in features at Worlds. Yeah. I was pretty stoked on that.
Okay.
Joe Battle Day got second. Shout out to him. Maybe the best run I've ever seen him do.
Best back nine I've ever seen in my entire life.
Right there is the reason why. And I think his run was sick. And I was pretty stoked on third there because that was one of the hardest finals I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Nils laid down a run that you would probably see on a podium at most contests, and he was in last place.
It was an insane final.
Which is crazy because it was 8-man final. So there's that many people, and that run being that low on the scoreboard is crazy because it was pretty bolts.
Yeah.
So I was pretty hyped there. There are times where if I win and Trent gets second, Trent will take contest losses harder than anyone else, and that's just the person he is. So no matter like how stoked I am, I know he's going to be bummed, and I'm going to be there for him, whatever he needs. But typically he doesn't need anything. He's just going to go out and do that trick that he messed up or whatever it is 1,000 times, and it's going to be perfect the next time.
Yeah. He's going to go back to the war room. And
he's pretty disciplined in that sense.
Yeah, sounds like it. I mean, you have to be. He's Trent Stuckey, dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, I guess continue on that relationship with Trent a little bit because it's interesting to me.
Yeah, so he's, like I said, he's more disciplined than probably any other rider that I ride with or know about because it will be, a Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon, full cable, boat is going, and he's still doing Mob 7s, back 10s, and back 12s.
For those who don't know, when he's saying the boat is going, at OWC, there's like a boat like that runs at the back, and it sends rollers throughout the entire cable. So it shakes it up quite a bit. And
our wave breaker isn't up to par, so it gets pretty choppy, and then the boat goes. And it would get pretty rolly. Most people don't even care about riding during this time. And my brother will go out and do Crow 7 to Pete 7, KGB 7 to Toeback 12 to Heelback 12 to Cab 12 in back-to-back laps. And it's Tuesday afternoon. No one's telling me to go do this. I'm not going to do this. Someone tells me. I'm like, I'm too tired for this crap. I'm going to go eat Taco Tuesday. And Trent's out there. He's going to do it no matter what. If that boat's going, he'll hit the kicker with the rollers or not. And I think that is probably what keeps him going and what's brought him so far ahead of everyone else is because there's not that many people with that same mindset or discipline in this sport at all.
In life.
Right.
In life, there is.
And,
very few.
And even if they do, it's hard to keep that going for an extended period of time. Yeah. And yet he still sees it and just chases it.
Yeah. It's fucking good, dude.
Yeah.
Do you think anyone's going to when I look at Trent Stuckey's riding, and this isn't to dog anybody else's riding, but when you talk contest riding on the cable, and I think he'll get there on the boat. Like I do think he will get there eventually on the boat. Right now, he is like a very distinct separation between him and the rest of the field in any given contest. Like, barring injury or anything like that, do you think who's going to close that gap? Like, is that gap going to be closed, or is as long as he's going to be riding at his highest level, like, how are people going to catch him? I guess is my question.
So, I think one thing he has like ahead of everyone else is just how consistent he is, because he'll go out and do these tricks in any condition. Like, there was a kicker contest earlier this year where someone landed a double back moat, which, you know, you would think, oh, that's going to take the kicker contest for sure. Like, it's a double moat. It's it's not the best kicker. You know, we saw some back nines and whatnot, but a double moat was like crazy. And Trent did double roll to blind. Mind you, he lost his board bag traveling there. So he was riding my Look at Force board all week, which is not similar to his board at all. Gets there, day of the contest, gets a Ronix kinetic shipped in. So he's riding that he just scrubbed on the ground to make it slide more normal, like it's been ridden. Goes and does a double roll to blind. Kid lands double back moat, and he does a double back moat on the next lap. So that's the gap right there, and then he seals it. So I think the only way to find him not be this astronomical gap between the rest of the competitors is to find him when he's not in the right mood. Like at Worlds, he got some kind of sickness. I don't know, the first few days, didn't ride, was throwing up, and yet still went out and did double KGB on the kicker. And I think a lot of people wouldn't ride. They'd be like, no, I'm not feeling it, and he still did that. And that's, you know, that you're going to have to find him at some sort of weakness. That's
so you're
more
not going to
than
be Trent
that.
Stuckey. Trent Stuckey's got to beat himself, is what you're saying.
I think so. Like I think if you're to beat him, it's because he does a run that's too hard for himself, and he doesn't need it.
Yeah.
And then he beats himself. And I've seen this happen a couple times, and that's where it happens the most. And I think it all comes with, you know, the time that you compete and the expertise you get over time. Something I call wake IQ. And that,
So you batting that? That's a trademark.
No, I just refer to it quite a bit. And the more that will happen, the more he'll learn. And I think it has happened. So now he's learning.
Yeah.
And maybe something for other riders, it's more common, and he doesn't see it as much because he's looking to do what, you know, he wants to do his best. He doesn't just want to do enough to compete and win the contest. He wants to do the run that is the best he can do to show everyone what he has.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's learned this or not, but like at Wake the City, he did double mob at the end. You did, I think, a rally on the way out. Shout out to that rally. It was sick. Double mob, pretty cool too, though. But like he did, like there's no need to do that. I don't think did he ever do that the entire contest?
No, this is actually crazy. He didn't even hit the XL once.
Oh, he didn't even hit that kicker?
He only hit the Gravitron. I'm the only one that hit the XL
Yeah.
for this duo contest. If you don't know Wake the City, 2 people ride, 1 carrier. I hit the XL. He hit the feature next to the XL. We had a victory lap, and instead of us going out and doing it, I was like, let's just have some fun, man. Big crowd there. I do a rally, some sprays, get the crowd hyped, and Trent does a dope back moat first try. Never even hit the XL, never like went that speed or anything. And that's what I mean. If you do it in every single condition, you can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
That's why I love that steep wall on my row. Because if you can do it there, you can do it anywhere. And if you take that mindset across the board, you can go pretty far.
Anything's possible. And I mean, that double back mob was as stomped gets. Like it doesn't get any, like you don't stomp it any harder than he did.
Like he didn't even squat past 90 degrees.
No, he did. It was just like, toss the handle. You caught it. Shout out. So we actually have another guest question from none other than Trent himself. So we're going to go ahead and cue that up here. All right. So this is a 2-parter. We got a first part here.
What up? It's Trent. And I think you should tell them about that time in Italy where we lost our rental car keys in a Burger King trash can.
So I think this is the Burger King story I've wanted to hear about.
Okay. Many words right there.
Hey, you want to hear the story? I'm going to hang up and listen.
Yeah. So traveling, probably the best part about traveling is the stories that come with it, and I get to tell time after time. So we're in Italy. You know, I'd say the first couple of years we traveled, Burger King and McDonald's was the go-to just because it's what we knew. Over time, it's gotten less and less, getting more cultured, but I'm still a sucker for some Macca's and some fast food. So we go there, night before a contest. My mom's tagging along with us at this comp, and have a rental car. We're at Burger King, and they have these like self-compacting garbage cans. Like some Chick-fil-A's have them where you put your food in and then it compacts it so it can fit more food. And my mom was like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, I want to see it again. She's like taking videos of it. So she throws away all our food for us. And we go to leave. And of course, cannot find the car keys. And we're all looking around and we're like, well, it had to be on the tray for the food. And so it's in that garbage can. So she goes and gets the worker. And they go, get the key to open it up. It's some new technology at this trash can.
It's fancy, dude.
And he's like, yeah, we can get it, but I don't think it'll be so easy. And Mom's like, what do you mean it's not easy? Trash can, And we open it up, and the key is nowhere to be found. So we're like digging through this bag of trash, pulling out one piece of the key here, one piece there, and then like you see the unlock button, the lock button, and then the key comes out, and it's just like bent to like a 40-degree angle.
This thing's strong.
So and both keys were on the same loop, what some dumb rental car company did this. And so this thing has completely destroyed our only way to get into the car. And, it's 11 o'clock p.m. at this point. Contest day tomorrow, trying to get back, get some rest. And, we're lost all hope here. This key comes out sideways. Guy yells in Italian. Some dude in the back brings out a lighter and a hammer out of the Burger King. And he's like lighting the key up, hitting it with a hammer, trying to bend it back to normal. And he's like, while he's working on that, we go outside and try and put the battery like back into the car keys to hit the unlock or lock button, and we're trying to do that. And we're rearranging the battery, bending it back, put it in, and all of a sudden it unlocks. And we're like, oh, no way. Like, no way that just worked. And the car next to us just unlocked their doors. So it was not our car. So we go back inside. This dude's like cigarette in mouth at this point, going full ham on the car keys, and brings it out. I think he's got another hammer at this point to like try and even out both sides at the same time. Puts the key in, and he like wiggles it for about like 3 or 4 minutes, and then all of a sudden like gets it in to the point where it unlocks, but then he can't get the key out. So we got to get the key out to put it in the ignition. And there's like a group of like 4 or 5 other Italians that have have started helping us too, because they it's a mystery. They want to find out as well. So we already called the rental car company trying to get a tow or a new key or something. And then they get this key in, and the car starts. It's been an hour at this point. Car starts. Oh yeah, we're on. Drive back to the hotel, and then the key doesn't come out of the car because it's so like bent from the hammer.
So the car's just running?
Well, so my mom dropped us off at our hotel and went to her hotel. Didn't tell us the car was run. And we're like, yeah, like, Mom, like, what's going on? And she's like, no, it's fine. Like,
shout out, Mom.
All good. And
kids got some contest to win here.
yeah, trying to make us not think about it. So we walk like a mile. We're in the ghettos of Italy. Like, some people were like, this back alley. It was pretty sketch. I'm like hitting the key pretty hard to bang it out. And then finally, 20 minutes later, get it out, go to bed, get it in the car, whatever. It's somewhat working. Take the contest. Trent wins. I get second. Bingo. That's a good one. Might have thought I should have got first, but I think there's other contests that I had higher hopes for in that sense. And go back to the rental car. It's the last comp of the trip. So we're like all stoked to go home. And we just get to the rental car company, put the keys on the cable, and they just are everywhere. The keys are like 6 inches long, just pieces everywhere. Like, and the people look at us and they're like, oh, you're this person that called. And they just knew exactly. It was like the worst thing ever. We had Nils with us, and it was just a nightmare, but it worked out.
You know what that story reminds me of? The age-old saying, which is, it always buffs. It always works out. Everything always buffs.
Gotta
dude.
trust the process.
You gotta trust the buff, dude, because it always buffs. All right, we got a second parter from Trent here.
One more. I don't know if you could talk about this, but I'll leave that for you to decide. That time, we were in a room, and someone got peed on that night. That's all I'll say.
Okay. I like it. Who got peed on? And who did the peeing, dude? That's the more important part.
I don't know if this is my jurisdiction here.
Is it not your story to tell?
But I'll get into it.
You can leave names out if you want.
I'm totally getting into it because it's that good. But so this is in Denmark. I pull up, pretty long travel day. I'm only going one country over, and it took me like 10 hours. I'm so over it. Getting in, it's probably 2 a.m. at this point, and I can't get into the room of the hostel. And I'm like, God dang it, dude. Like texting everyone. Finally get in, probably 2:30. Just like everyone's dark, everyone's sleeping. Throw my stuff down on the floor and just hop in a bunk bed. 10 people per room. You know, it's stacked. 2 hours later, 4 a.m., I wake up to Pedro whispering, "Hey, are you telling me you just got peed on?" And I'm fully awake because I want to know what's going on. And I was like, dude, like, what's going on? Other people are starting to wake up, and he's like, yeah, dude, like, I fully just got a golden shower, and I like slapped him, and he didn't even wake up. And I'm like, I'm wide awake at this point. Like, yo, I got to know what happened here. And you know, all the boys are waking up, and you know, Gunny's down there, and he's like, yeah, I just was on Instagram, and I just heard some water. And Busty's like, I heard water too. So there's 3 witnesses here, and the guy who did it is like denying it. No way that happened. So like they go to the bathroom, he takes a shower, comes back. Like I think he got the comforter and the sheets off the bed and just like threw it out the window because he was like so pissed, and like the guy wasn't even accepting it. And it turns out like a couple of the boys went out because there was no comp the next day. They went out to a bar that was right next door.
Here.
And someone got a little too drunk and thought Riley was the urinal and just took a golden shower.
Oh, he took it on Riley. Oh,
yeah.
Poor cat.
But Riley is the nicest guy. Like, if it was anyone else in that room, homie would have been toast. But Riley was, like, the nicest. Like, he was, like, telling him to not worry about it. And it was just saying, like, yeah, you just owe me some boxers, like, and some new sheets. And he was the nicest lad about it. But it was just so, like, awkward. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, and the room full of 8 wakeboarders wake up to this, like, it was the funniest
nice
thing.
Waterfall going down, jeez.
Yeah. Wake up in the morning and the kid's gone. Like, he didn't want to deal with it at all.
He's probably hungover as shit, too. Like, Sunday scaries going on. That's brutal. Okay, so some good ones from Trent there. Let's talk contests. What contest to you means the most, I guess? Like, what's the most important contest in your mind? Or means the most?
Yeah, so I kind of think there's 5 that of, like, in the main season, there's 5.
Okay.
Which, in the grand scheme of things, isn't that big. I think I counted them up yesterday, and I went like 16 for 17 podiums this year, or contests. Like, so 5 isn't that crazy. So I call it the trifecta, which is Plastic Playgrounds, Langenfeld, and Wake Duel. However, Plastic Playgrounds isn't as big as it used to be, but I still consider it there. It's coming back for 2026.
I was going to say, it wasn't this year, though, right?
It was not there this year. It was there last year, and it's coming back. I think those are the 3 most proving contests you can win. Okay. As far as I know, only one person won all of them.
Who, Aaron Gunn?
No, he lives next to me.
Oh, Trent.
Yeah.
Oh, that would make sense. I didn't think Plastic Playgrounds. Okay.
But I think those are the most proving contests that you can win. Like, if you're going to win one, you're going to win one of those 3. It's the best. On top of that, you have Worlds, which is the World Championships.
Which Worlds?
I don't know. I've only been to WWA, so I just considering Worlds because that's what people put in their bio and stuff, and what, like, the World Championships, World titles are like what people from other sports see as something they can relate.
The word world is transcends the sport.
For sure. It's something you look at, and on top of that, there's
watered down when you have 2 of them, but yeah, okay.
There's the cherry on top that I call Munich Mash because it means a lot that you're on that list. You know, I think it's 12 guys now. It used to be even less. I think if you're in that group of 10 or 12 guys that it means a lot. And to get invited there, and then, you know, they cover everything and you get to perform in it's such a stage. You know, I think there's 40, 50,000 people that go through that event site throughout the weekend.
Yeah.
and you get to ride. You don't even see the grass. All you see is people's heads. And to ride in front of them is just so special at that place, because that contest for me when I was growing up was like the one you'd see the most of. It just meant a lot. And like I remember being at the orthodontist getting my braces tightened, and it was on the TV there. And it's something I could relate to. You know, I was like, oh, I want to be there someday. And now winning that contest, it was something I was able to relate to and have like some kind of moment. So I think those are the 5. Now, without plastic playgrounds this year, I think Wake the City is starting to build a name for itself. It's been around for a few years, and everyone's turning up to it. So I think those are the main ones. You know, you get other ones here and there, but I think those are the main. And I think what I want to do is like I wanted to win all 5 of those at some point. You know, in the same season would be insane, but at some point I want to tally those up, and I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, and I don't know how big of a golf fan anybody is who's listening to this or watching this, but golf has 4 majors in a season, and I feel like this is like the following in that same line of like if you have major cable contests, these are the majors, and like you win the majors, it's a big deal, like as it should be. That's how I would compare it at least. Yeah,
so there was, I mean, obviously there's more. Like Red Bull Copenhagen happened this year. My first time seeing this event fell on the same weekend as Munich Mash, which is a bummer to me. It's a bummer to everyone that was wanting to do both and couldn't. I actually confirmed for Copenhagen and was like fully set to go there, had flights booked and everything. I was like, I experienced Mash before. I want to try this thing out. It's a Red Bull event. You know, that's the top of the bucket list is to get that helmet. And I was like, I want to go there. There's Red Bull people there. That'll be something cool. And I think what happened was I get a text from Laura Munich Mash. Hey, we want you to reconsider your decision to not go, and we really want you to come here. Red Bull's putting a lot of money into the skate, so I think you'll be just as happy to see like Red Bull people here as well. And I was like, yeah, but you know, all good. You know, they offered to fully compensate my trip there, which, you know, Munich doesn't. You know, the prize money was more, something I've never experienced.
At Copenhagen, it was more?
Yeah. Copenhagen was more. They offered to pay round trip and pay for my accommodations, food, like, you know, fully free. Like, all I had to do was show up and do my thing.
Yeah, it might get peed on, but besides that, it's free.
Exactly. You know, careful when in Denmark, you know? So I had another competition. U.S. Nationals was the week following. Now, if I can get a fully compensated trip and win more prize money and take a lot of stress off my mind because I don't have to pay my way there and it's not as hard as a competition, that's going to be great when I have a competition right after that I have to switch gears in and go straight into.
Yeah.
Because maybe something would happen and then I'm not in a good mindset for the following week. So I was like, yeah, I want to experience this thing. You know, told him, sorry, I'm out for Munich Mash. I'm going to rejoin the party next year. I was like, I'm pretty stoked on the way the rest of my season went. If I didn't get invited back to Munich Mash, I'd be pretty bummed, but I think I had it. And she replied with, I understand, but the higher ups at Mash aren't going to let this one slide. If you turn down this invite, you're essentially going to be blacklisted and you're not going to be welcome at any other Munich Mash event ever again. And I was like, well, okay, switching the flight right now, making a phone call, and I'll be there. And then, like, literally overnight, switch that thing. You just cannot give up Munich Mash. Yeah. It is such a great stage for wakeboarding. The biggest spotlight in cable wakeboarding. You know, nothing puts more eyes on it. The live stream goes to Red Bull TV. It's going to get hundreds of thousands of views. And you just can't beat it, you know?
Yeah.
They take great care of you there. And you know, as much as I wanted to experience something new and, you know, really live out the pro wakeboarder lifestyle to the fullest and just experience everything, I couldn't give that up.
Decisions had to be made.
Exactly. So
fair enough.
It worked out too. So,
and I have to imagine the scheduling thing is, you know, going to get worked out because neither of those contests want them to have conflicts. Like that's just not what.
Exactly. I heard Red Bull Germany and Red Bull Denmark were not on good terms with each other, like stealing riders. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they don't want that either. Like no part of Red Bull or the riders or anyone who wants that. So like it makes sense that hopefully in the future that will not happen again. But decisions had to be made. So Munich Mash, you're back, and you're not on the blacklist. which is good.
I'm back.
I got some Patreon questions I think we can rip through here before we wrap this up. But first, before we get into the Patreon questions, I'm wondering if you have any tips on how to flip couches from Facebook Marketplace.
No way. Who mentioned this?
I got sources.
All right. For those of you at home, it's not easy or not cheap to travel the world. So me and my brother have a little business of our own where we buy couches or obtain couches.
Free couches, could be.
Clean them up and take nice pictures, deliver them, and we basically resell them. So this funds our travels. We do it quite often. I think we sold like upwards of 30 couches this year.
You guys are moving.
This is what fuels our travels. So if you want tips, you can DM me. You can join the Couch Empire.
Well, not if you're in the Orlando area though. You probably
we don't want any competition here. Got enough as is, but you got to find something because it's not cheap.
Yeah, flying a lot is not cheap for sure. I mean, you got any tips on flipping the couches? What are you doing to clean these units?
Yeah, so you pick them up. You got vacuum, wet vacuum, like a steam clean, spot clean, and you might have to sew a corner or two, and then
sewing,
and then not tell the people you're selling it to about.
Well, you're buying a couch on Facebook Marketplace. You don't need to tell them anything.
Exactly.
Here's the couch. You want it or not?
Yeah. The key is for you at home. The key is offer free delivery. You
get tipped on the delivery then?
Oh,
it's nice.
Sometimes. Or you can charge delivery, but if you offer delivery, it's very enticing.
The sale's going to happen for sure.
For sure. They're not going to come get it.
Yeah. No, nobody wants to pick up a couch. But if you said delivery, I feel like you can charge way more for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Just bake the delivery cost in.
You got to take nice photos too. Make it look good.
Yeah, for sure. Photos are everything. You got a Roth IRA. How's that doing? What are you invested in these days?
Well, I tried crypto. That didn't work for me. I'm out.
I feel like I've heard that story.
Down $800 in NFTs. So
NFTs. That sounds like a great investment.
A Roth sounds much better right now, and I think honestly, you have to with what's his name on Instagram? Mikey.
Oh, Mikey Taylor.
Mikey Taylor,
yeah, skater.
Give him a follow, dude, and you'll know what to do with.
How much real estate you got? Then? He's a big real estate guy.
Oh, he's a huge freaking real estate guy.
You gonna buy Lake Ronix?
I'm gonna buy something.
All right, let's jump into some Patreon questions. We got one from Preston. I don't know how to say his last name. Persichetti, I think. Persichetti. I wasn't even close.
The prodigy.
He's kid's ripping. He's wondering Jess's tacos or enchiladas. I guess from the whole family, but.
Shout out Preston. Taco Tuesday every Tuesday from his fam. He's ripping.
Yeah, absolutely.
Enchiladas. She actually popped my cherry for my first enchilada. So her enchiladas are banging.
Enchiladas are great.
They're
it's a
really
great
good.
meal.
They're really good, but even split for sure.
Okay.
Taco's probably my favorite food.
Taco's easier to eat. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
I got the side there. Got one from Bill Porter here. He's wondering, what has been the thing you've liked most so far in the transition to Liquid Force?
I think I'd say just like being able to do me, and they saw that from an outside point of view, and they value it. I think because no matter what I do, I think I can just do me, and they're gonna be happy with that, and I can kind of just flow and make my own path of the brand and be on good terms with all the guys. Being able to meet everyone's been super cool. They have a huge team, and it's been cool, like getting to know each of it individually, and being able to meet Jimmy and like kind of pick his brain a little bit and even work with him is pretty cool because he's been there since the beginning, So he's got endless stories and endless ideas, and it's just really cool to get that opportunity to work with him.
Yeah. For sure. He's also wondering what features in board shapes or boot designs or anything like that are you kind of have your eye on or you'd like to see created in the future. You got any ideas on stuff?
Yeah, for sure. For me and what I like to do, I always am going to gravitate towards a high performance board. There's some contests where you may have to ride 8-9 runs a day to make throughout that finals. So whatever you can do board wise to make it like to make my job easier is going to help a lot. Make it lighter, faster, edge stronger. You don't need as much of my energy, and I can kind of use the board's energy and save my energy for those rounds is what's going to make a huge difference in the long run.
Yeah. Okay.
Because there's always boards that are out there that are going to be fun boards, and you can always hop on if you get bored of that high performance board. But right now, that's what my eyes are on.
That's where you're going.
Yeah.
So if you had a pro model, theoretically, hypothetically, what would you call it? Dystopia? The Unstuck? Well, I mean, what are we looking at?
I haven't thought that far.
You've definitely thought about a name. Don't tell me you haven't thought about a name.
I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna work. It would be really cool to have a pro model, and to make it my own, and a board that could kind of copy my movements as a rider and then translate it to my feet. Would be really cool. As far as the name goes, probably not gonna sack off Trent's name.
Dystopia, yeah, that would be, it would look nice next to each other.
Maybe just the Gavin. Maybe if I just call it the Stuckey, I can steal some.
That's
some
true.
sales.
People Google it, they don't know, they just
Yeah,
click. That's
yeah.
fair. I always thought ROTY Tallboys. I mean, I'm not gonna say who should or shouldn't get a pro model, but the tall boy would be fucking sick.
That'd be pretty sick.
He could put a tall boy can on the bottom, like come on. His face on it and shit.
The Gavitron.
The Gavitron. That's not bad too.
That's
and you can double
unit
dip with
feature.
unit on that one too. Like, there's potential there.
Might have to pay a little patent or a little tax to the Space Mob boys.
True.
For the Gravitron, but
that's true. Well, it's Gavitron. Drop the R. We got one from Josh Dahlheimer here, and he's wondering if they should bring back Wake Brothers as a new series featuring you and Trent.
I think that would help the paychecks.
I think it'd help the sport of wakeboarding.
I think it would be sick. I think it was before my time. Phil and Bob.
Yeah.
But what they did was pretty sick. I think it got more people into the sport. I think it got more eyes on wakeboarding, and it definitely made them more known and more popular. So I think it was a win-win all around. So it'd be sick if anyone wants me. Holla.
MTV, holla at you, boy.
Yeah, MTV, welcome to my crib.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Wake Brothers. I was a huge fan. Huge fan of Wake Brothers. Got last one from Garrett Cortez, and he asked the same one to Trent, but be curious to hear your thoughts on this. He's wondering, growing up riding and around the pro scene in Orlando, and now you are a top pro. What's different from what you might have expected as a younger kid versus what it's actually like being a pro now in 2024?
That one's pretty deep. There's a lot that can go there.
Did you expect a lot more money?
I did. That would be nice. Living in mansions. When you hear the term pro, you're like, oh, yeah, we're on. But I think in today's day and age, pro can mean a lot of things.
A little different.
And entail a lot. But I think it's really cool to, be that pro that's at the cable. Like OWC specifically, just because it wasn't that long ago that I was the Grom that was looking up to pros. So I try and, give back to those guys because I was that Grom. Whether that's signing a board, riding doubles, whatever it is, I'm here for it. Take a photo with them, teach them a new trick. I love that portion. What's different, I'd say, I don't know. I don't really think about it just because it's reality now. I guess I'm traveling the world as a pro wakeboarder and it seems normal, but from the outside looking in, it can seem like a dream life. And I'm just super grateful to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
At 18, yeah, it's sick.
So I think before we wrap this up, I got a new, it's not a segment, but we got the ROTY Board up here, which is new. And you're going to be the inaugural person to put a name on this. So every individual guest I have on, I'm going to have them write a name of someone they think should be or could be in contention for 2024 Rider of the Year. And it's the 2024 Rider of the Year board. It's a skateboard. So once I find the Sharpie, we'll go ahead and take that down and you can write a name on it. So we're diving into this ROTY Board. Found the Sharpie. Yeah, go ahead and grab that down there. Let's, so here, how this is going to work is you write a name down, and then as more guests come on, they can either write a new name down or they can endorse, the name, put a little tally mark next to it. So we're just going to keep a tally as the episodes go on to see where the people stand. Where do the riders stand when it comes to Rider of the Year?
I think there's a lot of people. A lot, but a short list, which can be a little confusing, but there's a lot of people killing it. right now.
For sure. You can only write one though. This isn't gonna. Nobody can take the easy way out and fill the name all the way to the bottom. You gotta. It's one.
But I'm gonna go a different route here than you might think or that we've seen before. I'm gonna write a chick.
Yeah. No, like I said.
Now I think there's 2 chicks that are killing
I'm thinking
it.
of one chick right now, but you write it down.
I think there's 2. So normally I would say this one chick, but to be honest, this other chick's been killing it too on both sides.
Okay.
So
for the record, it's Saturday, October 5th. I just want that, that as we stand in the
should I
season.
write a date after?
We'll put it at the end there.
Okay, cool.
So write the name first.
This one chick's been killing it on both sides. But I think
this was the name I would have gone with.
I think this other chick has leading women's riding into a new level. She stomped back 9s.
Stomped.
Like bolts. I've seen more than one. Her rails are on a new level. And I think she's probably the hype towards all of women's riding right now.
100%.
And she's kind of leading the train.
You're teasing this one big time. This is a big time tease. You don't know how to spell her last name. Is that what's going on here?
I need to write the date. What's the date?
Oh.
October 5th? 10-5?
10-5. I guess we don't have to write the year. 10-5. So who is it? As you hang it up.
So drum roll, as it's been this long. Rivers Hendrick.
And I was gonna say, don't say the other name you're thinking, because that way,
okay,
you know what I mean. Yeah. We don't want to do honorable mentions. So, all right, first name up on the 2024 ROTY. I don't know what you call it. It's the ROTY board, I guess. It's by the people.
It's the ROTY deck for sure.
It's the ROTY deck. So we're gonna throw names up on there, and she'll stay updated in the background here. So, all right, love that. Great name. Like you said, she's been killing it. Content game, stomping tricks.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Style.
She runs both ends. Like obviously, she went out and won LEO last year, Wake Duel last year. She's like, it's no doubt that she is killing the contest.
Yeah,
scene.
she's mopping up there.
And then she goes out, and her Instagram is crazy. Like I said, back 9s, rewinds into walls. There's tangent blind into walls, back mobs, crow mobs. I think she did a back 7 in her run the other day, which, as we talked earlier, some guys are doing. And then you find out that she can film properly as well.
And edit too, yeah.
And she owns it, like, on both ends, and that's pretty cool to see. And I think, like I was saying earlier, how it makes yourself more valuable, not as a rider, but to the brands. And I think what she's doing is pretty cool.
Very cool. Totally agree with that. I endorse that pick for sure. If I was on the other side of the table here, I would endorse it. So, yeah, like I said, this isn't who ROTY is. Obviously, I'm not going to pick. Nobody in this room is going to pick, but that's going to be a list of names. So, good name there. I think before we wrap this up, is there anybody you want to thank or anything else you want to touch on here? Great pod.
Yeah, it was a long one, huh?
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of fun, though.
Not much of a talker, but I started talking. I would say, obviously thank my parents supporting me and whatnot, giving me the fundamentals, the Slurpee challenge, and kind of just everything that paved the way to be where I'm at now. So my brother kind of just follows in that because I just follow him in his deep bag of trips, and it keeps me going. Everyone from OWC, from when I was, 7 years old to whenever, I think the community that we had was something special. And like I said, OW's not the best park in the world. Like, there's parks out there with better features, more features, whatnot. But the community we had there had something special, and everyone just wanted to get better at wakeboarding. And I think that's just so important when you're progressing. Because without that, it self-motivation can only go so far.
Quick. Yeah, it gets real stale.
It's kind of like if there's anyone out there that's into surfing, it's like San Clemente. Obviously, Cali doesn't have the best waves, but look at the guys on tour right now. You see Griffin Colapinto and his brother, and a lot of the other San Clemente boys are sweeping up the tour, and there's only 4 or 5 U.S. people on tour, and they're in the top 10. So, they don't have the best waves either, but I think what they have is pretty similar to what we have.
Yeah.
And it goes a long way, and it shows.
100%. It seems like the squad at OWC has come back a little bit with like a Friday. They're doing the
Friday
thing,
kickbacks and everything kind of revived the culture. It was getting dead for a bit, but I think it's pretty solid.
Vibes are on the up and up, dude, especially with wakeboarding. So I like it. Anything else? Anything else you want to touch on? Anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, Liquid Force for bringing me on, and everything that you guys do, and kind of solidifying my path and giving me a road ahead. Follow, Steve. He's the man. He was like my first real sponsor, and I'm still riding with him, so that's pretty cool. And then the guys over at Unit, giving me the opportunity to have a signature rail. I think is everyone who rides cable has ideas to come up with rails. So to be able to do that and to make it happen, it's going to be at more than one park is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That's sick. I rode it. It was a lot of fun. If you ever get the chance to ride it, I mean, absolutely. I think is it just one at Gold Coast right now?
Yeah,
the first one.
Yeah, that was the first one. It was fun. I enjoyed it, and then I think we get to make a second one in the future, hopefully.
There you go. Love it. First one goes well. Buy that baby up, dude.
Yeah.
Scoop that sucker.
Go get it.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks for coming on. It was a blast chatting with you. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you guys are on YouTube. If you guys are listening on Spotify or Apple, make sure to rate 5 stars. And if you're interested in joining the Patreon, that helps out a ton. So thank you to everybody on the Patreon for helping make this podcast possible. See you guys next time.
See ya.